We ready? Sir Jim? Let's bring this work session to order, and
I'll just do a general statement first, and then we'll go from there.
sounds good.
Okay. On your desk is the sheet that I emailed you, the extra sheet that belongs in your book here, 8A, B, and C. That didn't get sent out. We got an additional record this year, and remember last year we didn't do a lot of details on each department, and I said that we would be this year providing a reader's guide, and this gives you additional information about each department, the number of employees, their stats, their the projects they've completed, immediate needs type of statements, and all of that's been compiled, and we did some charts in there that talks about the percentage of the budget that they're responsible for and things like that, which is basically general information for you to help you understand, excuse me, a little bit more about each department. Okay?
Very well done.
Thank you. Mostly compiled by Tyler. It was an idea that he and I had wanted to do last year and just didn't have time. And so early on in the year, we knew we were going to prepare for this, so we had put together ideas and generally speaking, asked the departments to provide all the information, and then we compiled it. So I think it's a good addition to our budget process for you, and then we'll give you updates. That gives you like an annual report, an annual update of information of each of the department. Granted, none of these numbers are audited numbers, and we won't have final health insurance numbers until about a week from now. We won't have final numbers from the county till July 1. That first week in July is when they get them to us. And this is what it is. It's a preliminary run-through of all the numbers, and this is the time that we see things that don't look right, and we make sure that we have them corrected and ready for the final approval in the first part of August, so that we can set a public hearing, and then once that is done in the hearing, and that's the time at the time when the public has a chance to comment and make their voices known at the public hearing in August, or talk to you individually between now and August. The budget format you liked last year, so we kept that and put it in large spreadsheets so that you can easy to read and follow. This year we just put it in the order in which they'll be presenting, and remember to number the pages so that you can flip back and forth between by pages and find the pages. Same format where we've given you a history, a 3-year history, a column where the base, what it says, the department base is basically what they feel is the absolute base number that they need to work off of. And most of the time it's the same number as the previous year without capital. The adjustments are supposed to be, there are pluses and minuses for the year, and they're what the department is actually requesting in the department total. And then the manager recommendation is where I have added or deleted myself. And down at the bottom, the notations on the column there are noted on any of the increases and decreases that the department felt needed clarification for you, are noted at the bottom with the simplistic notes that can be further explained as you meet with each department and ask questions. I have all the payroll numbers separate. I didn't include them this year. They didn't seem to be that helpful last year for you on the individual, each employee, but if you feel like you still want that, I could go ahead and copy that off for you and send it. The only other thing that's not budget related but on your desk tonight is a book that's from Raffatellis, the City of Junction City Water and Wastewater Final Business Plan. That is for your meeting next week, next Tuesday evening, because they'll be presenting the ordinances as presented to you in the meeting. There have been no major objections to the 5.5% and 7.5% increases, so we're moving forward with ordinances to present that to you for the increases to begin the process of making improvements to the water wastewater systems. And that business plan is finalized, and they'll be asking you to approve the plan as presented. So because it's detailed and small charts, we're giving a hard copy to you because it's difficult, we know, to read it on the iPad. Any other general questions for me before we start?
Those ordinances they're not reflected in the budget yet.
Yes, they are.
They are, okay.
Okay. Okay. With that, then the first we have scheduled is IT.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners,
Mr. Jim?
I start on page 16 of the Reader's Guide. Explains what my department does, what we're responsible for. My budget for this year, I'm requesting, I requested $203,037, but after consultation with Cheryl, we've settled on $197,915. This one, I like my page better. It's color-coded. We've gone down in, the only areas that we've gone up in line item-wise is the salaries. We went up to $20,109. The reason that number's so low is the IT department, myself, Mike sitting up there in the corner is our IT tech. We're the two people in the department, and his budget is accounted for under 100% under dispatch, and mine is broken up. 25% actually shows in the IT budget, the O2 fund, and then it is broken down to the various funds. 45 is in dispatch, or excuse me, 45%. 10% in water, 10% in wastewater. There's 5% in stormwater, and 5% in sanitation. And that's because of all the software that we run to maintain their operations, support their operations.
Remember that the reason it is funneled through dispatch is because our IT supports some of the county activities, Sheriff's Department, emergency management, and things like that. And because of that support, that's the way they've agreed that we would funnel their wages through dispatch, and then the dispatch is a 50-50 split with the Sheriff Department. That's why you see those salaries split that way. I think I said it in my letter, but the only change on most of the employees is cost of living, 2% built into these budgets.
So across the board, 2% COLA?
Or non-union. The union have different, based on union contracts that you approved.
The, based on salary steady and COLA, is that still a 2% across the board?
Remember, the 25% difference is picked up, and it only amounts in the non-union employees is less than $20,000. And then the union is where union salaries are as you agreed to by union contract. And that ranged from 3% to 5%, I believe. And I forget which one's which, but I'd have to look it up.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what is the increase in salary and COLA together?
Oh, I had that. I don't have the other one. I could have it by the end of the night to you. I'll get it to you before the end of the night.
Okay.
Line 749.
0749 other services. Yes, sir.
What does that entail?
Other services is any time that we need outside support for something. For example, I put $10,000 in it for next year. What I want to do is, because there's only two of us, I want to hire somebody to come in and rewire some of the police department, because that was built in 1989, correct, Chief?
Police department?
Police,
Yes.
1989. Some of the network wiring in there is Cat 5, and that's designed for 10 megabytes. I know that probably means nothing to you, but the computers we're running now are at 1 gigabyte, which is about 1,000 times faster
Basically
than
like
that.
if. and- 'cause
Yeah, it's for the stuff that we can't get
Contract
to.
somebody different.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay,
And
Yes,
there
sir.
are times if there's a system failure that he needs to call in a higher tech,
right.
Right.
like that.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And once again, we're projecting, it's the same with the hardware. I'm trying to project 18 months out, saying, hey, I think this is going to break in that year. You know, it's kind of hard. It's like trying to figure out whether your car is going to stop working in a year and a half.
In most cities, you would be proactively just on a rotation based on age of the computer, and we do a mix of both. We do a mix of age of computer plus just wait until it breaks. And that's really not a proactive way to do your equipment, but we just don't have the capital necessary to do what's considered a recommended capital improvement switch out.
Well, in actuality, the last 2.5, 3 years since Jerry Vernon was here, we have been proactive in replacing the computer
Yes,
systems.
I'm not saying you haven't.
And right now, next year, there are only 3 computers that will be more than 5 years old for next year's budget. That's all we had to budget for next year.
In all the funds, right?
Yeah, in all the departments.
So what's the difference between 630 and 669?
669 is actual software. Like if I want to go out and buy a piece of software that does something specific.
The word's wrong in here.
Yeah.
It says hardware.
Oh, 630 is actual computer equipment itself. 669 is the software. That should be software,
Correct
not
that
hardware.
word. I'll correct that word in there.
Yes.
And then on 0710, that's those licenses or
That's
agreements with
the,
everybody that we...
right, the annual maintenance fees associated with the software that we use, like Encode, RecPro,
And that gets your updates.
On
and-
base. Yes, part of our annual maintenance contract is updates to the software, as well as if we have issues with it, it's on-call support. We call them and say we have an issue, we get them logged on, they repair their software.
Is Firehouse in there, or is that in fire department's budget?
It's listed under the fire department. This is, the only thing listed in my budget is things that everybody use, GIS software.
Encode.
Yeah, certain portions of Encode, payroll, things like that, are listed in my budget. All the remaining specific software maintenance and/or purchases, as well as computer hardware, is put in each one of their individual budgets. So we actually know what it costs to operate that department.
On travel and training wise, there's a pretty good spread there between what you're asking for and what the base is.
You'd ask for it.
Well, I asked for 21,000, and that was an increase. This year it was budgeted for 12,000. But we have 2 people to train next year instead of 1. And for example, a VMware class, we were up there Kansas City last week. One VMware class for a week is $4,000, and that's just for the class. This does not include meals or hotel or anything like that. So that's why I requested 21,000, but we settled for 15 with the boss. And once again, these are just projections. I think if you'll look historically, even though we may have budgeted 190,000, you'll find historically we spend a lot less, because I don't like spending money when I don't need to. There are certain times when you have to spend money, but I pay taxes here too, so.
Well, that's what I meant on the software, I mean, not on software, when I was talking about the hardware purchases. Even though we may schedule for a purchase, we have tried to keep our IT systems updated, but we may budget for it, but we may not end up spending it either. IT is one of those departments that is critical that, for instance, that the computers all work in the water department, customer service department, because that's where our revenue comes from. And if they go down, then you don't have any revenue. You don't have any revenue, we're not going to exist for very long.
Right. And like for a prime example of that is the computer hardware, I've got $32,000 budgeted for that. And that's for servers, network switches, servers and network switches. I don't know, we could have four switches fail tomorrow. It's just one of those things that's very hard to project out or predict. So the odds of us spending that $32,000, I don't know. Hopefully we don't, but it's better to have it there than not to have it there. Because if it's not there, then I have to come before the commission and request an adjustment to my budget, and that adds about a month to acquisition of a component, which means if a switch goes down and I can't get a replacement for it because I don't have the money, we might have an entire building that can't access anything or use any software until we get that approved.
How many of your classes are getting more towards being web-based versus travel-type classes?
There are quite a few. Actually, Mike and I went to Kansas City on Friday and talked to one of the schools up there. We have an entire list of courses that are available on web. It kind of depends on, whether there's a
I know you can't get
certification
everything
involved.
With my education too, but there's
Yeah.
a lot more stuff online now that
Right.
saves me a lot of money to go do that.
A lot of money, a lot of time.
Yes. And believe me, we try and take advantage of as many of those as we can, so.
Is there any chance of bringing some of that training here?
We could, but it would, we probably couldn't afford it. What do you mean by bringing it here for me and Mike to sit in a class or
Those
offer it to the
that,
community?
Well, those that train or provide that training, in some cases, they'll go to a location where they can train 10 or 12 people in the area,
Right.
as opposed to going to Kansas City. Sometimes they will cut you a deal to come out here and then pick up 10 or 12 people. And I know that we use that a lot with companies in Kansas City and Topeka and Wichita. They would come here, we would set them up, whatever IT equipment that they needed, and then they would perform it not only for the city folks, but there could be other folks, county folks, city folks, maybe some Fort Riley
Right.
IT.
Anybody who wants to sign up for their class,
Right.
yes.
I didn't know if you had pursued any of that.
I haven't, to tell you the truth, I haven't looked into that, but it's something I can research, because,
It cuts down on travel.
yeah,
quite-
maybe through Cloud County or even Butler or Barton Community College.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to have
Yeah.
a room with, say, 10
Right,
computers.
exactly.
Jim,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'm going back through history there, so I'm going over total expenses. And I look at 2011, I see 151, then 2012 was like a regular year, 2013 was a regular year. 2014, we had to buy that software, so that's why it went up 198,000.
No, that's actually the year we're currently in, so that's the amount that was budgeted.
Budgeted.
Budgeted so we
Yes.
could buy that software that we needed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
That was last year we purchased that.
Correct. So we don't need software again, so shouldn't that amount come down, even though, I see you have the maintenance in there, but the
Where?
maintenance shouldn't be that much.
Which line item are you
Are you
referring to?
669 or?
I'm looking at the bottom line, but if we go up to the 710 software, there's a 58,2.
710, that's software maintenance.
Uh-huh.
That actually usually increases by approximately 5% every year.
When you,
And you added another employee, right?
software maintenance. You-
But no, that software is not employee, but
It went from 21 to
I'm just looking
58.
at your total number
Where-
for
where-
2013, which was 122,000
Exactly.
versus last year or this year is 198,000.
oh, okay, I see where you're talking now.
$70,000 jump.
I was thinking, if we don't need the software this year, I know we still have to maintain it, but it shouldn't be at a price of 5712 to maintain that software on item 710. Wouldn't that come down at least maybe to 20,000 or 25,000?
Oh, let me see here. I'm trying to find out exactly what the bump was.
Okay.
31,000 in 2014.
13 was 221.
Your software maintenance doubled
Mm-hmm.
on 710.
Oh, I know why. I know why. Because that is the first year that we split it out.
For wages.
Right, no, we actually created the 0669 line item. Prior to that year, there was no 669,
Okay.
or 710, I'm sorry.
710.
That was 2012, we created the 710 software maintenance.
They went 49 to 21 and it's
Right,
58.
right.
That's where they're,
It was the way that it was being coded in the system.
well, you can see the next one before 714, it went from 15 to 9 to 21 as well.
I'm trying to see what we added in there that was special.
Well, you were adding, I know, a lot of the CIS stuff.
Well, no, we added,
I thought that one.
we added our virtual servers, and there's maintenance associated with that what they call VMware software, to where we don't have to purchase actual boxes as servers, we can virtually create them. There was,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, there's money associated in that, with it, which increases that bunch. Once again, there's a 5% added to all the encode stuff.
That was to switch over so you weren't having to buy servers.
Right,
And buying servers was 10 to 15,000 each, weren't they?
yes. And there was also, included in that number was our antivirus software. We purchase that 2 years at a time to save money.
Okay.
And this year, there's software for both the email server and the computers themselves included in that number.
All right, because if I'm looking over this, I'll start with the 630 area. We have computer hardware, got that.
Right.
Other supplies, we're okay there. Tools, got that. Office supplies, always. Postage, got that. Then we get into 669 is actually computer software.
Yes, that is software.
Okay, so we got computer software, 30 grand. Which is pretty much about normal. And then we come down to 710, and that's the part that gets me. It's throwing me off, that 57, even though it's a virtual server. So that's going to be every year, that'll be 57, roughly 57K.
Well, if you're looking at 2013 budgets, that's actually what we spent
Exactly.
on the software, right? The 2013 budget is an actual number. It's not a number that was budgeted.
14's a budget number, not an actual number.
14 is what was actually budgeted to operate with this year.
Correct.
Right.
And so
And
we're
15,
figuring-
if you look at 15 is the exact same number as it was this year.
14 hasn't been spent,
Right,
Correct.
so
right.
So we're going to spend the same amount of stuff and purchase about the same amount of stuff we did for 2014. And that line item 710. I hear what you're saying, and I'm looking
Right.
at the numbers of what we spent. I understand the numbers, what we have designated already.
Right.
2014, 58,280. So what I'm hearing, though, is we're going to have to spend another roughly 58,280 for 2015 to maintain the same type of software maintenance. That's what I'm reading.
Right, that's projection, yes.
But we still have software, computer software up there for 30, and then we have software repair maintenance. Item 714 is repair, maintenance, maintain of equipment, and that's 19 grand.
Right, that is where we pay for all the internet connections.
Okay.
We have a Metro E connection. The IT department pays $1,500 a month for our main Metro E connection, and then each of the departments pay their share to connect the remote sites to the city network
All right.
through Cox Business Systems.
I'll just say that item 710, I'm not sitting well with the 5712 right now. I'm not sitting comfortable with it, but I see
Yes,
where
I have a
you're-
breakdown.
Okay.
712,
Okay.
Yeah.
710.
Item 710, 57,012.
Did I hear you say 2013 was actual?
Yes, that's what we actually spent.
2012 was 49,472, and then it went to 21. I don't know why it jumped, why you, so much less.
Okay.
He mentioned 50
Yeah,
this year, but he may or may not spend all of it.
The breakdown of the software maintenance in the 710 line item, we pay $6,450 for our GIS server and its associated software in annual maintenance. We pay $29,686 in certain areas of the Encode software, the call center, cash collections, account receivable, payroll, things like that, the general ledger, all the things that make that operate that aren't department specific.
Say that amount again, please. I'm sorry.
$29,686.
Good, all right.
And actually, that went down from 2014 because we turned off some software that we weren't using.
Okay.
The OnBase, the document imaging software
That's the
that we
story.
use, that's $8,500 annual maintenance.
Okay.
And then I have VMsphere is $2,000 for the, actually, it's $2,012 for the VM virtual machine software. And there's another $10,000 that's projected in there for Citrix licensing.
Citrix?
Citrix is the software that the people from outside of our system can hit a website and log onto this system. Right now, we have 15 current licenses, but the police department uses them, and what I have to do every 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, I log onto the server and clear the licenses, because we don't have enough licenses. So usually at 7 a.m., I log onto the server, clean out the licenses that aren't in use so that the officers can log on and do what they need to do.
So you're projecting to buy more licenses?
Right, I want to purchase more licenses that will self-control themselves. When an officer logs off, it frees up the license. Right now, we don't have those licenses.
All right, I'll be looking forward to an estimate of what we actually come out with. I still believe that's an area we'll probably go down in. And again, I understand a projection of 5% over, or 5% either way. But, all right, thank you.
But that was, yeah, well, right now, we're actually lower than what we were last year, or what we budgeted for this year. 2015 is actually $1,000 less than what we budgeted this year.
Correct.
If you also recall, I said in the 2011 and 12 and 13 budgets, we were moving things to the right line items to get them to the right place, and that the 2014 budgets was the first ones that I was comfortable, that we had everything in the right place. So it's really starting forward from 2013 forward was going to be where, 14 forward was going to be where we would have everything's in the right place, and and then you could start truly tracking trends and line item by line item where things were and what they were spending on an annual basis. It took us that long, and if you recall back when I even started here in 2010, that's what I said. It usually takes 2 to 3 years for us to figure out and get things in the right place, and all of that is rearranged now. I'm very comfortable that the 2014 budget forward, there will be less rearranging of budgets, because we've got, I believe, everything in the right place now.
And 2013 was a good year for a base.
Yeah, we were trying to get the final corrections. The only thing that I want to change for the future, that I truly want to change for the future in the budgets now is a breakdown of the general liability insurance. Right now, that is all charged out to the administration budget, but it doesn't really get you to what you need to reflect what it's costing by department for auto insurance and general liability insurance, and I would have to split that by percentages. That was one of my work plan goals for this year, and that's kind of been now pushed aside.
Gave you a little extra work.
I still think I can, by year end, maybe get to it, but that was another goal, was to, as we broke down electric and gas and all of the utilities, now the only thing left was to break down and split out by department general liability and auto insurance costs.
That'll be a good expenditure, too.
Yes.
That'll be a
Well,
good
it's
analysis. for expenditure.
$170,000. Right now, a majority of that is paid, not a majority, a good portion of that is paid by the water and wastewater fund, but they're also the most expensive assets we have, too. But we need to break it out so that it's fair and equitable. to all departments. So you'll be seeing some changes in that likely next year. But other than that, I think we have everything split and broke pretty accurately now.
Thank you much.
And just for, since we do split out a lot of the IT hardware and software components, I did a comparison. In 2014, this budget year, we budgeted $557,353.79 for all IT assets, citywide. Right? In 2015 budget, because we've been proactive in replacing things, we are at $408,794, a reduction of $148,000 between the 2 years.
Yeah, and that's been doing by analysis of software. Are we using what we, if we got a license for it, are we using it? If we didn't, we canceled it. We looked at the phone systems, the types of software we're using, the types of hardware that we were using. We looked at and analyzed all of that with Jim over the last 3 years.
Do we ever bulk buy the antivirus and malware with, say, the county or anybody else around, see if we can get a better price?
Mr. State?
We get a government rate on it.
A contract?
Yeah, we use, matter of fact, I just purchased it this month. We pay $18 a license for 2 years.
Okay.
Per machine.
And everything that we do through IT in particular is based off of the state of Kansas rate,
Okay.
Right, or the feds.
or the federal rate,
Which-
whichever's cheaper.
Yeah, whichever's cheaper.
Okay, good.
What did you say you pay, how much?
$18
18?
per license. For 2 years? Which, for 2 years. So that's about $9 a year.
Pretty good.
It's even cheaper discount for 3 years, but I didn't have that money,
More
so,
up front, though.
or I didn't budget that money, so I stuck with the 2 years.
We do that throughout, not just with the software, though. We do that throughout of all of our purchasing if possible. As you heard with them in the copier purchases, we force the contractors to look at the state rates and if you had a state contract and what that meant if we were purchased a certain copier.
On line item 630, you say 2013 was the actual cost? Be about 20,000?
On 630?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're asking for 32, and we've been proactive. Is there any way of cutting that 10% to 28.8?
That, on the 630, the hardware, we can.
Well, I know that that the nice to have in case you need it.
Well, and that's exactly what it is. It's a buffer against disaster. But I'm sure that if it really came down to it, I could not buy pencils and use that money to purchase something if I needed to. Yeah.
I just think we need to be very proactive on cutting spending, and I see that 20 grand in 13. There's still a pretty good cushion at 28.8, and that would be reducing that by 10%.
So you're thinking 630 at 28.8?
I was
Yep.
thinking a 10% cut if that is, if,
Actually, it's this year it's budgeted at $33,200. There's that 32,000 already shows a $1,200 reduction. But we could, 28.8. I can.
I just think we need to focus on spending
Right.
the least amount that we can and not be so worried about the buffer that we may need. If we
Yeah.
had plenty of money, then it would make no difference at all. We wouldn't be questioning it, but
Right. And
I just think we need to pinch where we can.
Well,
I think
as-
you've done a very good job
yeah.
replacing that machinery and being out in front of it. So I think you're looking pretty good that way.
So 28.8. I can make that work.
think we almost need another column where we had the 2013, you had the actual in there, but you might even have the 2013 budgeted numbers in there. I mean, because the 2013 we actually have, those are the actual numbers, correct? That was actually spent. So it really shouldn't even say budget number, right?
Should say actual.
Right, up
Actual.
at the top,
Well-
it should say actual.
You see what I'm saying?
I
So you had to compare to the budgeted number versus the actual. Same thing with
feared
2014.
saying actual.
Right,
I see,
Because it hasn't been audited.
I
The audit's
say
not
actual.
What I mean,
complete, yes.
'cause it's kind of messing with us a
actually,
little.
that's,
Then you would
the
know
rest of them
Right.
say actual.
what the final dollar
Okay.
was.
How much we
and
really
what-
spent
Oh,
What
okay.
we,
versus what we budgeted.
what we
Okay,
budgeted
the
and what
rest-
the final was.
The rest of them say actual.
Right,
Just
okay.
thought that one didn't. But it is, they're not audited numbers
Throwing
yet,
me
but
off too, yeah.
Right.
Right.
They're
Um,
testing us, make sure we're awake, I guess.
yeah.
You pass.
You passed.
All right, I'm out of here. Have a good night.
That was easy.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing, though. I want to make sure that not just your department, but every department, we're going to have to be cautious and careful about buffers. I like having a little push either way, but I want to leave that push in the hands of the city manager. I pretty much want to see it right straight down the skinny, right down the narrow. And then because if everyone starts pushing a little bit this way, or buffering a little bit that way, or cushioning a little bit that way, next thing you know, we have an overblown budget.
Well, if you recall in the actual state budget forms there, and I forget what I set for this year, so I'm going to look it up. I tell you the right number. 350,000 is the budgeted cash reserve,
Okay.
is the, and with the $200,000 transfer to capital, so the actual totals is 550, so there's your cushion, if
That's
you want,
right.
if you needed it.
I'd prefer to be there rather than in each
Okay.
department's estimates. All right, thank you.
Now, just to clarify, 749 is contract services?
Basically, it's other services.
Okay.
And that's where if I contract with, say, for example, Fox Business Systems or somebody to come in and take a look at an issue that we're having, then that's where I would pay that out of. Or if I need new network wires run.
Okay. Good.
But your specific project for this one is the PD. We did the
Right.
City Hall and Fire Department
We did
last
City Hall and Fire Department last year, and they're the next one to try and fix. And it's not all, we have run some wires over there recently. There are just some that need to be replaced. They've been there since 1989, and they just can't keep up with today's technology.
Any other questions?
I think the only other question I had was that travel and training, 6,013 to 15,000. We essentially more than doubled it.
You have 2 workers.
And that's actual. And that was for one person
That
in
was one.
2013.
Okay.
Now you have 2.
Right, now I have 2 people that have required training they need to go to.
Okay, that,
So 194, 715, is that what it looks like?
And you'll
Tell you in a
also
second.
need to realize that even when in the 11, 12, and 13, that training, that was difficult at best for him to get away during that time because he was only one person.
right.
Now at least they have the ability to travel more.
You want it down to 28.8?
Yes, on that one.
I'm trying to answer Commissioner Sands' question.
Oh, you're good. I'm a
Yeah.
nice guy. I took my socks off.
Okay, just checking.
No further questions for me.
Next would be Parks and Recreation and Building Maintenance, Department Head Ed Lazier.
Thank you.
You do building maintenance first?
Yeah, building maintenance is the first one. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll have 6 budgets I'll be presenting tonight. The first one on the list is the building maintenance. If you guys recall, we took this over in July of 2012 with the Vialia transaction when we took Public Works back. Building maintenance moved into the Parks and Rec Department. So if you look at some of the older historical numbers, we don't really have a good track record. 2013 is our really first good year of actual expenditures to
That's a
see
half a year.
kind of what we've done. Right? 12 is a half a year. Yeah. So 2013 is actually what you'll see is really a true year of what we've done in the department as far as expenditures. Something I just want to mention on this budget, building maintenance basically has a budget for this building, the Opera House, the animal control, and the court. All other maintenance duties are charged back to the respective departments. So some of these numbers you're seeing in here, these are actually under one fund instead of in each individual department. We just haven't got that far along yet to get them out to each department. But the police and fire, all the rec departments have their own maintenance budgets now. So they're not reflected. First item down on the bottom on the tabs, basically we have 2 full-time employees in this department. What you see, the little increase there is based on the salary study and the COLA. The next increase, and I think Cheryl actually backed it back down, was our fuel based on actual usage. And then Cheryl's recommendation, she pulled it back to like the 3,500 range.
And if you recall, I'd been looking into the WEX card system, and my recommendation when finalizing up in this budget is to convert over to the WEX card system by August 1, which I believe will, and I've reflected in the numbers, would reduce the cost of fuel by 10%.
That was a flyer we had,
Mm-hmm.
next card, which card?
WEX card?
WEX.
Okay.
They are providing the final, I didn't return her phone call today, but she's providing me the final questions that I had asked of her, and that was recommendations of others, references that use their service, and once I check references and you are agreeable to enter into that system with them, we'll set that up during the month of July with the intent that we wouldn't wait till next year to do it. We would just try to have the conversion all done by August 1.
I thought if we didn't do it with any other vehicle, we should do it with a Dodge Charger.
And a little bit, if you look along the lines on the manager's recommendations compared to what my recommendations were, Cheryl and I sat down on this budget and with all the rest of them, and we kind of tweaked them back a little bit, basically looking at what our actual expenditures were in 2013.
But I
Tried to
found-
match them a little closer. We know we're 2 years away, so we're not going to be at that same level.
I found an error on 715.
Yes, you
It's
did.
supposed to be 15,000, not
Not
1,500.
1,500.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, that one was an error.
That was an error.
Or 750, oh, okay.
715.
These are all the things that we'll identify through this process, and I still have a series of checks and rechecks to do on all the budgets. Okay.
And then the last was on, the last major thing, increase on this one would have been, we're currently using, we have 2 pickup trucks. One of them was an old engineering truck, a 2004 Chevrolet. Only has like 70,000 miles, still runs pretty good, but we do have a 2,000 half-ton pickup that has over 170,000 miles that we're using. I requested that to be replaced with a 3/4-ton pickup with a utility-type bed that we could carry more tools in and have a ladder rack on top and kind of save some trips back and forth if they need tools during their maintenance items. Cheryl has then reduced that to a used vehicle at the 18,000.
That'd be number 3 instead of 2, right?
Correction, that's right, number 3.
Can any of this capital equipment be paid for from forfeiture funds?
Forfeiture funds from,
From the police department?
Not to my
No.
knowledge, I don't believe so.
No.
I don't believe it would meet that criteria.
No.
It has to be law enforcement related, sir.
What are your other services on 749?
Our other
Good.
services, we're going to be HVAC repairs, plumbers, electricians, items like that that we're not licensed or qualified to do.
You can see historically that it does add up quickly. We didn't have as much, we had $20,000 worth in 2013, but historically it was 28 and 30.
That was another area that I had marked here with the 10% decrement based off the 2013.
On which item?
749.
749. I thought if there was a 10% decrement in that, it would make it 27, and 2013 was 18,000.
Again, based on the actual, in 12, we had it actually budgeted at the 30. In 13, just did the 18, but again, looking that far out, and that being an item that when we have, just like Jim, we have to hire people to come in and get things operating for us.
I can tell you that all of our HVAC systems are getting very old, and they are breaking down on a regular basis. You remember last year we had to emergency replacement on the 2 at the fire department
Mm-hmm.
So where did that money come from?
out of budgeted reserve.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
What about roofing repairs? We've been hearing that
There is no roofing repairs in these budgets, except for the one roof repair. The warehouse is the one facility that we have, the PD warehouse, that the roof leaks on a regular basis. We have, in this building, we have, and it is budgeted under capital improvement, $73,000 in capital improvement budget. And you'll see that later in his budget, where we moved it from his budget to capital improvement. In this building, on heavy storms, above the stage will leak. And that there is no monies in these budgets for roof repairs.
Essentially,
Wouldn't it be under
we're doing
building?
lots of patching, lots of caulking and sealing.
If we did it.
Part of the problems is just making sure we keep the drains always clean. If we get a heavy rain and the drains can't keep up, we'll see some leaking then from the sidewalls. So again,
Yeah, we've had problems with the Opera House.
Same with the Opera House, we've had those problems.
We do have an ongoing leak issue at 12th Street Center, but it's a really odd one. They don't think it is from the roof itself, but rather the air conditioning unit. But we haven't been able to figure out where it's really coming from. And it doesn't happen on every rain. It's one every 10 rains.
Well, it's odd. You get a
It's
heavy
really-
rain and it stays dry, and then we get a half inch and we might
And-
have a few puddles. And we've been up on the roof a lot to try to research it. And
So basically, in the last 5-7 years, we've done a lot of patching.
our staff.
I mean, I can't say enough. The employees here truly try to save the city money, and they have tried to patch and keep things Band-Aided for a long time. If we can go ahead and decrease that to 27,000 if that's your direction, but this budget, they did not last year go over budget, but the prior year, it was definitely over. I mean, it was over budget in 2013, because it was just like in Public Works. You know, we were trying to give estimates, but on a department that we hadn't been responsible for in the past, this budget doesn't reflect truly what we need, because we need a lot of things for building maintenance. We're just ignoring it.
Just to give you an idea, these two guys, they take care of 22 different buildings at 14 different locations throughout the town with what you're looking at there.
And we Band-Aid a lot.
And that's everything from all the light bulbs to all the fire extinguisher stuff, the
Yeah, they maintain the fires.
filters and the
everything.
furnaces, any little projects that need built, they want to, something painted or just whatever. we
Oversight
can
for
do.
bug control, oversight for, the carpets were going bad in my office, and so they had to
Replacing
get fixed in. If we have flooring, the flooring that fell apart in front of customer service, they arranged and got that repaired, and that was in this budget, things like
Water
that.
fountain. We had the
Water fountain that broke, and
And when our safety inspection occurs, I know the
We get a lot of
building
issues.
maintenance does a lot of work, making sure, electrical outlets are correct and, holes in electrical boxes, or make sure those are filled up. So they're very helpful in, helping with the safety procedures.
And some of those unforeseen things like the security at this building on the doors and the gates, that's all come from right through here too.
right, and the question you keep asking about, efficiencies and how do we get things more efficient? Well, the next step for efficiency for electrical is replacing HVACs and redoing all the lighting. That's the next step.
That's where you need
It's capital.
You need revenue.
It's the new roof, the capital, that's the next step. And we haven't budgeted for that because we knew that the goal was to keep things low and not go over the mill levy very much, if at all. And that's why you don't see us proposing large capital projects, because we just don't have the money to.
Well, I understand your
Please start.
equipment's getting old.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand equipment's getting old, and repairs are needed more frequently. That explains it.
They do creative things. When the water fountain out here in the hallway broke, and it was so old they couldn't find parts for it, so instead of buying a new one, they scalped the one from the municipal court building and brought it over here and put it up.
All the mold.
Well, they cleaned it off before they brought it over, but they don't buy new unless they have to.
Any other questions on the building maintenance portion?
So the numbers, the bottom line numbers there, 191, 387 is actually the correct number?
Plus
Well, we've
14.
got the
I got to
14.
correct and take down 3 if you want to take down the
On
3.
that
So
715.
I'll be adding 12. Okay.
Oh, it's 15,000 or 1,500?
It's supposed to be 15,000.
Thought it went the other way. All right. Thank you. So it went up.
Yeah. After it got published, the only way to correct it was in this meeting, to let you know that.
It's happy going the other way. I don't have any.
And you can use some of that for roof repair,
That's the
715.
intent. Yeah, that's the intent.
Okay.
We bring in contractors to, instead of doing the whole roof,
They'll come in and
we
patch
just
a
finished a
section.
project at Spin City where it was a section we were able to determine, and we actually did it ourselves, but that'd be something we do have a contractor come in
Okay.
and just do that section to secure that.
Yeah.
The commercial they got where the guy blows them holes in the bottom and sprays that stuff on it, maybe we get enough cans. Might fix that roof.
It's worth it.
We've tried, actually, you tried some of that on
We've used
the,
undercoating.
on the 12th Street
We've used
roof.
undercoating.
They actually did the can spray on the 12th Street roof.
Did it work?
It doesn't last very long.
Oh.
It only lasts for 6 months to a year. It doesn't last very long, but it does work temporary.
Long enough for a boat ride.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Is there enough history on the budget between, from 2013, from what was budgeted and what was spent, that you can come up with a number of, transfer that money into capital improvement? So instead of Band-Aiding these things that are, we've got AC units are half dead, that we're dropping thousands of dollars on each year to keep them going.
Right. We're in the process of working with capital management to do a full capital improvement program and have it set out. We're going to use some of their expertise and have more discussions with HVAC people to talk about just that. And on the roofs, the same discussion. You said he was struggling a little bit on what to ask in the capital improvement program because there was so much in need, but how we're going to prioritize that and how we get more solid numbers is the next question, is the next step.
We did finally get after getting building maintenance back, it took a while, but a real good inventory and a really pretty accurate ages of all our AC units throughout the whole community. Before, when Veolia had it, we didn't even really know what all that was. So this year, as part of the capital plan, we were able to get a good inventory on that, and we have that listed out exactly how old things are and what their expected lives are.
We also have a new software management program it's called Facility Dude, and they now log, just like you were logging the maintenance on a vehicle in Public Works, we log everything that we do per building so that you can start to monitor and see trends. So it's not just, oh yeah, I think I remember doing that. No, it's logged. Yeah, on such and such date. Probably the worst need of all the buildings right now, and we don't even have a good price on what that would cost yet, but we will by next year, is the plumbing in this building needs completely done over. We have problems with backed up toilets, and we have a couple faucets in the basement that when you turn them completely full on, they have a little tiny stream of water come out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably, of all of the projects right now, I'd say that's our worst.
That's what we ranked number one
Is our worst project right now, is this building, because of it's old. All of the plumbing needs redone in this building. It's probably our number one project in building maintenance right now. And shortly after that would be HVAC unit replacements and roofs.
This building or?
This building, all the buildings on
All
roofs and HVAC, all of the roofs and all of the HVAC, except for the two now new ones on fire. And did you have one new one recently? Or no, you had a repair on one in your department.
He had a new compressor installed. He didn't get a new, he just got a compressor.
It was repairs. We just repaired his.
He just got a new compressor.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Other than that, they're all just old units that need replaced.
Yeah, we need to start chipping away at this stuff because we don't want every bill come and do it once.
Yeah, and that's why we're headed towards the full capital management plan. Just as you're seeing us do on water, wastewater, and stormwater systems, that's the next step, was then to get a handle on our building maintenance, and Ed and I have been working on that. And you'll have that by next year.
Okay, well, I'll kind of move right into the Parks Department. That's the next one. Just briefly, the staffing in the Parks Department is myself as the director. Currently have one part-time administrative assistant, kind of / secretary, that provides support for our department and the building maintenance group. We have 5 full-time parks maintenance employees, and then we utilize various numbers of different seasonal employees throughout the summer during the busy months. So that's kind of how our staffing looks. Again, what we did is similar with the building maintenance, basically copied 2014 to 2015 to be our base budget, tweaked down where we could, and then again, Cheryl and I got together and looked at some of the actual historical items and decided that we had shown a trend that we hadn't really been needing quite all those dollars and had reduced them because we just don't spend them at the end of the year if we didn't use them. So we thought we could get by with several areas that have been reduced. And it kind of says on the chart below, either increased or decreased slightly by the historical usage. Been a few small savings with the computers and the IT, or the telephones, excuse me. Mr. Gurman had gone out and done some marketing with the telephones and had a service come in and audit all our phones and say, okay, these are the ones that we can save money on, and then for 1 year period, we paid them back a percentage of that. So you'll see that when you see on their teleplus agreements completed on the writing. That's what that means. And also some of our computers, we're not needing any new computers at the time. We've got everything there upgraded. in the parks. I wouldn't mind just bringing attention to, again, the other services line on this one. One of the larger expenditures for 2013, if you look, it's a little larger than it had been historically. 2014, it's a higher amount. We had got permission last year to upgrade one of the ball fields at South Park, and so we still plan on doing that hopefully this summer so we can get some co-rec leagues going this fall. We did tweak that down a little bit. Didn't go down as far as historical to the 20,000s because we learned this year that the arch in Heritage Park, the actual historic arch, I believe we're going to need to invest some money in pointing up that
Tuck pointing.
tuck pointing the wood. You're seeing grass growing in it, and we had a local mason get up there on a lift and do some looking around. And water is getting down in the joints and through the freezing and thawing, it is contracting, so we don't want to let that get away from us. So did not reduce that 749 line back down to historicals because I think we're going to need to do that this year, or excuse me, in 2015. Look at that. On the capital, the next kind of item, 835, I had requested to replace a 2004 truck, kind of based on when they get 10 years old. Put it in the original budget with Cheryl, and also replace a 20-year-old Gator utility vehicle that we use out at the stadium. Cheryl and I visited and determined that really the truck, again, doesn't have a whole lot of miles, so we thought we could go a little farther. But again, in our division, the newest vehicles we have are 2006. So I just that was my thought, is starting some replacements as we go, because we're going to be at 10 years old here on everything. Even the newest stuff's going to be 10 years old real soon.
But if it's not broke, we
No.
probably shouldn't fix it
Right.
just to fix it, right? That's kind of a like to have.
That's why
Yeah,
Cheryl and I
I
agreed to
said-
take that and reduce that down just to the $16,000. And what that would do was purchase the field, the utility bunker, or excuse me, the utility gator for the field. And then I always, every year historically, leave some money in the capital, somewhere in the range of about $5,000. As playground equipment's damaged, we need to get the replacement parts in and get it back up right away.
Now, throughout the last month, I've heard several of you talk about possible park closures as a cost saving, and I asked him to be prepared to answer those questions. That would be solely on the direction of the City Commission, if you were interested in doing that at all. He has data on parks, if you want to know what it costs to maintain a park.
I don't remember any specific parks being named, were there?
No.
But if we closed a park, how expensive would it be to salvage the equipment, move the equipment to a different park?
That's right where I was going to go. I contacted some, I used the little pocket park on 12th Street, Martin Luther King. Has some relatively good play equipment, but it's reaching its 20 years. It's in life. To move it would probably be a $5,000 to $7,000 cost to move it. That particular one, depending on where we moved it. We do have some of our play equipment that was installed by city staff in the years past that is not currently, it's in compliance now because it hasn't been moved, but if we were to move it due to the newer regulations for safety, probably couldn't move it due to the compliance issues.
You would not be able to reuse it.
As that Cheryl brought that to my point, I looked at, and just kind of thought in my head of all the parks that we could consider, and that one came in mind. That small pocket park on 12th Street would be one that could consider.
Franklin?
Yeah, 12th and Franklin. Then the Saratoga Park doesn't get a whole lot of usage either. Now, if that's in the floodplain, I don't know if there's any resale value to that or not, as far as getting, other than
No, if it's
what
in
little
the
bit of savings
floodplain.
we'd have. There's not much down there. Or the two that potentially could, that get kind of, or less used.
Recreation use is one of the few reuse of a floodplain area.
Well, I think what I had mentioned was not so much eliminating parks as it was to find ways of cutting the utilities, or leaving the park open, but not having the streetlights on. At 66,000 for electric and 8,000 for gas, I guess my question was, is there a way to cut back on utility usage and still use those parks as a daytime use?
That would be an issue I would have, I guess. I don't think they get a whole lot of nighttime use anyway. All our parks close essentially at 11 o'clock at night and open at sunup. It would be more a security issue as far as the neighborhood of people doing things and that they probably shouldn't be doing. Would be
Maybe they should be
more of a
closed at
concern.
dusk, so then we didn't pay for any lights at all.
No?
I mean, can't play too much ball at night unless there's a league scheduled game right or anything like that.
But again, I think a lot of the parks are just security lighting. What you have, West Star street lights, there's very few that are lit up. Heritage Park obviously is,
Sure.
but
Well, because you're also paying for your Lewis Nader building lighting, and what else? Bathrooms.
all the restrooms,
All the restrooms, all of the ball field parks, the overhead lights.
stadium lights.
I know in other communities, we could increase the rates on charges. If you turn the lights on, it's, certain rate per hour. I don't know what are you charging right now? Rate per hour?
We have all the rates.
You could, and so the cost of use of those lights is not on the city, it's on but then you're going to be financially hurting the ball leagues.
Right. Our rates for, just to run the ball field lights are,
Very low.
they're very low, but they're designed for,
This is
recreational use.
Lighting in Heritage Park, lighting in,
We charge $20 an hour to light a ball field. But again, as many of you recall, most of our nighttime use at the stadiums are with a rec program that's supported by the city, and it's getting a discounted rate through a contracted agreement for the use of the facility anyway. So those numbers really aren't.
it goes back to rental rates, the brigade, the leagugues, and all of that. You would be charging them more, is what you would be doing.
Yeah, I think all I'm talking about is just, we want to encourage activity at the parks. I think, but if it's just a playground park and there's nothing probably going on when it gets dark, so we don't really need lights on. I think the ball fields that are being used, great. I didn't want to touch that at all.
I guess we could, we could inventory what we're
Facilities
paying in the security lights, because to West Star, but, 6:30 this morning, I was at North Park, and there was vulgar and pretty rotten stuff on the side of the bathroom. It
Yeah,
happens.
vandalism is going to be your biggest
That's
problem.
It happens.
that's the part that,
That's kind of and that's
It's gonna be
that's pretty
vandalism.
well lit with just regular street lighting. But they can,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
kind of around on the backside.
I would say probably at one point, the reason there are so many lights in any of the parks is because of vandalism and security.
I think there was one instance where somebody started a piece of equipment on fire one time.
More than once, yeah.
And that's the only utility savings, is shutting lights off.
Probably.
I would think so. So where else we could, yeah. I think the majority of that is the street lighting that we pay West Star.
These are attributed to parks specifically. It
Those-
wasn't the
those are-
streetlights.
They're street lights, but they're in the
They're in the
park.
parks.
Yeah.
When we were
Park,
doing the split,
All the trails around Homer's Pond.
Yes.
Those are all lit.
Riverwalk Pond, all those lights,
Yeah, we pay for all that electricity through this here.
Heritage Park, South Park.
does Riverwalk get much use in terms of walking?
I see some people
I
over
see
there.
people walking on it.
I see Homer's Pond, that seems to get a
Yeah.
lot of use.
Yeah,
Homer's definitely gets, Homer's Pond and South Park get the
on
most.
South Park get tons of use.
Just,
Yeah, those are the two
majority.
heaviest walking parks, but I see people on Riverwalk.
For pumping
South
water
Park lit?
from the Oxbow over to the Riverwalk
yeah.
pond, is that on the electric bill?
It's sporadic on the outer parts of the trail, but it's lit.
Okay.
The equipment at the 12th and Franklin Park, could that be moved or not? Or
I
is
believe it could be. I'd have to double check the age of it, but I recall that being in pretty good pretty good condition. I think
I
it
drove
probably
by.
could be.
There's a lot of
Newer
new
stuff.
homes right over there. It seemed like that would be a great place to have a couple more homes on there. Start making some property tax on that. Take that equipment over to Buffalo Soldier Park, maybe rename that park with the other park's name.
Mhm.
Something to think about. A little consolidation there, and then Sertoma.
Yeah.
I think I've seen one or two teams playing there in many years.
We don't put a
Rarely
whole
ever
lot of
used.
expense in that just because it just very rarely gets used.
Right, but we still mow it and spray it and all that stuff, and that's
Yep.
money out the window.
I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen anybody even, any
That's what I
teams or
mean.
anything out there.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of 20 parks for a town of 25,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, especially when they're all on this side of 77, and the complaint I get is we don't have anything on the other side of 77.
Right.
And so we have 20 parks on this side of town.
Maybe with the land bank, that might be something that could be dealt with down the road, but I think it's worth considering,
So,
those two instances.
are you seriously want us to propose that to you as a closure of Sertoma or any other parks, or you want to think about it some more? Because we can come up back with maybe exact numbers and then a proposal.
It'd be interesting to see what savings there would be if you closed Saratoga.
There would be some savings now, but then there would be some demolition costs too. The
Yeah, I think
vacating
we
costs,
need
the
to
vacating costs would be higher in this year or in the short term.
And we need to hear from the community, if the community isn't going to use a park and there is no use for it, then we need to quit spending money on it.
Yeah, we've got some numbers in here on the usage of Sertoma,
Mhm.
which is minimal compared to the others.
Right.
8 times last year versus 30-plus anywhere else?
If there was room on the other ballparks, they wouldn't be there,
Right,
guarantee you. That's the only reason they're there.
just for overflow.
And again, that's why we're making efforts to try to get South Park back into shape. We hope to
Right.
get one of those yet this year.
I think that's a better use of the money. Spend it where the kids are.
Agreed?
Okay, we'll look into that one a little bit further, for sure.
Both of those.
Yeah, both of them.
MLK and this one?
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And if we close MLK, then we move the equipment over to where the Buffalo Soldier Memorial is.
Well, that's probably some of the newest equipment we have is in Buffalo Soldier.
Or maybe store it and then put it out on the west side of town sometime
It'd
down
be
the road.
I tell you where, the park that has the most usage, and it has the oldest, not the oldest, but it's because it has the most usage, it's Playground Park on Fifth Street. Looking at that place is always really full. Maybe, I don't know, we'll look at that.
That's a
Kinda-
thought.
you want to go where the people are at.
All right, definitely.
Playground Park and Coronado Park are where all our people are playing on playgrounds.
Great.
And does the Martin Luther King Park, does it get very much usage now?
I've never seen anybody over there. Looking up
It's
there all the
some.
time.
And
Yeah, it gets
I would
some,
travel
It
by
gets
there a
some,
lot.
but
It
it's
gets some.
not much.
It doesn't
The
get much.
location and the
house on it.
size is so small.
Yeah,
And
put
get
two
taxes
houses,
off of
yeah.
it.
It would be
that's
large
what-
enough, yes.
Yes.
Yes, it would be large enough to sell the lots for 2 homes. Okay.
Good.
We'll get more further details on both of those for you. Okay? Any other questions?
Oh, I did have a question. Question. 515, the actual for 35,000 in 2013, we've doubled it for part-time wages? Was that just,
No, that was a correction in where it was being dispersed from. He had salaries not being put in the right line item. As you
had-
can see,
The part-time secretary
yes,
was under
full-time.
full-time
And it should,
salaries and wages last year
and it needed to be it belonged in part-time.
because we proposed it originally as a full-time.
okay,
That was a position several years ago that was full-time. It got eliminated. During the budget process, I think in 11, I proposed a full-time, was able to get a part-time, and so it was always in the wrong line item.
So
okay,
as you
so
can
that
see on
line item
manager,
reflects
Yeah, under manager recommendation there, I corrected that.
Yeah.
And said, no, that's not where it belongs. It belongs in part-time wages.
Okay.
So you can see it actually reduces and then increases about the same amount.
Right.
And Eddie, on line 632, that street maintenance and material, is
Yes.
that for repairing pavement in parks, or?
Actually, because we really don't do that, actually, it's called street maintenance material. That's normally where I purchase most of the aggregates for the ball fields.
Oh, okay.
Let's do that, because it's got a gravel on it, or what is it?
Yeah,
Street
a
maintenance.
632. We don't name it as unique for each department. It's just got a generic name on it. Doesn't quite fit his, but he wanted to be able to track it separately.
So, yeah, most of the aggregates for the, and we do buy some rock for when the trails wash out and stuff, but as a rule, but we're not doing any paving or anything like that.
Yeah.
Anything like that, we would work through Public Works.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. Okay.
That's all my notes.
The swimming pool. I think I want to bring in, maybe Cheryl, you've caught this or not, on the revenues, we're showing a little 449, the concession proceeds. I think that should be at $20,000,
Yep.
and it's only $2,000.
Yeah.
So your very first number of our revenues projected
74.
is 74.5.
Which line
and
is
not-
Supposed to
that?
stay the same, yep.
Instead of the
Up
56.5.
Over here
That-
showing it 2, it
I
should be
caught, yeah, I
20.
wanted to make sure you guys could
Oh,
correct
I see.
that.
Okay.
Just missed the decimal.
Um, As you guys know, kind of a little history on the pool, we've been able to slowly make some improvements. This year has been, I don't want to ruin it, but it's been probably the smoothest since I've started working at the pool. We've got our new sand filters, we've got a new chlorination system in. The chlorination system has actually proven to since 2011, has been able to show some savings on our chemical costs, plus not even including the better quality of water that we're having in the pool all the time. So things are going good there. The pool is 1988, so it is 26 years old. It is an old pool. But at this time, we're not having any major problems. Staffing kind of pretty much stays the same. Again, we just hire a full-time manager and we hire a full-time manager early in the year, around February, that hires all the hiring of the staffing and getting the staff on board, and then she brings on a part-time manager to help her, because we want somebody on duty at the pool, a management member, whenever we're open all the time, to run that. We actually, when we're open, we staff about 6 supervisors. Supervisors are the folks that can actually handle the money, and then we staff 6 clerks. That's what the staffing is. And then we keep on hand between 18 and 20 lifeguards at a time on staff, not at the pool the whole time. So basically, when the pool's open, you'll have 3 supervisors, 3 clerks, and at the beginning of the day, a higher number of guards, and then as the crowd goes down, the guards kind of trickle off and go throughout our day. Look at some of the minor increases. Was one was number 3, our safety. We're wanting to do a little more in-house training, and so we're wanting to purchase some mannequins for our CPR, help with our CPR training. Number 7 is another item I wanted to bring up, the building maintenance and repair. Only the one thing I guess would be failing is all the exterior doors are terrible shape. We've been able to replace 3 last year, and we'd like to try to do the same again this year.
Got
until we
metal
get
doors that are
They're big,
rotting
heavy
out.
metal doors,
Metal.
and the chlorine eats them up.
Chlorine.
We've been putting in aluminum type doors, and have had good luck with that. All new casings.
He wanted to replace them all 3 years ago, and I said, no, we're just going to have to do a few at a time each
We're
year,
just getting them a few at a time.
and get the worst of the worst, and knock it down each year, and that's what we've been doing.
I had a couple of things, Ed.
Sure.
One is, you made me feel old when you told me that was an old pool. I remember when it was built. And
I started working here when it was built.
yeah. 622, recreation supplies. What
Sure.
comes out of that line?
That's what you get for your guards, your whistles, the lounge chairs we rent, the throw buoys, T-shirts for the guards, keep the sun off of them.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And 835,
Our capital,
yeah,
well,
it was scratched.
it was scratched.
And what are we giving up to scratch that?
I had originally programmed in a handicapped walk-in ramp to the pool. A pool our size requires two accessibility routes. We have a chairlift, which we purchased 2 years ago, brand new. The next option would be to put in an actual ramp that a wheelchair could roll down on the side of the pool where people could enter in the shallow end there. Again, the compliance issues, every year they say, okay, this is your drop dead date, and so we plan for it, and then by the time the dates come, they're putting that off, saying, okay, we know this costs a lot of money, we're gonna go out another year, and so now it's been going.
Who is that that's allowing us to,
I'm trying to think,
State?
state, I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
KDHE.
KDHE, there you
They
go.
haven't pushed
That's what I'm
back a
looking
lot,
for.
in other words,
Yeah.
I think unless they,
because we have the one
Forces
mechanized,
to,
we
I
have the
wouldn't do it.
mechanized entry. that
You already have
We have
one.
one
Mhm.
entry, handicap entry, so they haven't pushed back a lot.
But just the ADA is saying the pool that size should have two, and again,
So at this point,
they're not
we
pushing
said
back
no.
on us.
that's a really nice pool. And thankfully, we got that donation last year to repair the filtration system,
Yes,
which we never recognized those folks, did we? Did we do that?
they didn't want it,
Didn't want
They
to-
didn't want it.
they didn't want to be
They
recognized.
didn't want it.
They were okay with their name being shared that one time, and that was it.
Okay.
Don't do it again, or we have to pay
I
them
didn't
back.
say it. I didn't say it. We appreciate it.
The only question I had, or comment that I had, was, there's about $100,000 bust between revenue and expenses. And I know everybody hates talking about fee increases, but where are we relative to fees?
I apologize for not bringing it. I do have it. We, through all our recreation, the pool, the rec center, and the golf course is right in line. The only area that we could identify that could probably take a slight increase or an increase, that we studied it this spring, would have been the skating rink. And Cheryl and I have talked, we're going to look at that real serious as we get through the budget process. But as far as our pool, we're just right in the middle. We took a wide area, and we're just right in the middle.
It's been just 2 years, right, when we adjusted that? Right about 2 years or 3?
The pool?
For increased rates?
Yeah.
It was about
Yeah,
2 years
about
ago.
2 years
About 2 years ago when we adjusted it.
We're right in there.
What makes our pool a little more difficult than others is we have a very small little spray area, and we have the one slide,
We have 3 slides.
3 slides, but nothing, real big and fancy, super fancy like everybody else has. So ours is a simple pool, and when you compare us to Manhattan and Salina, doesn't even compare. So you can
And
raise the rates if you
there are
want.
some pools similar to ours that are lower than ours.
Yes.
There are, in the fees.
So you're gonna have to be careful about what you do rate-wise, because we're just gonna go to Manhattan and Salina. Maybe.
No, because the people that those rates are going to affect, they're not going to go anywhere, so.
True.
Then
That's
they
possible,
end up
too.
in the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I
That
mean,
is- that
you
is
can't-
real.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of kids from certain neighborhoods, that's where they go in the summer. That is the,
That's their summer,
That
that
is
is
their
the
summer place, I agree.
daycare center for them, so.
It ends up being their daycare center, actually.
Yeah, and unfortunately, but that's a reality of this community.
It's less
And so,
expensive for them to
yeah.
go there than pay
Yeah.
for a daycare.
What time does the pool close on weeknights?
7?
7. Do we ever try to, and this is same kind of question for Spin City, do we ever kind of market to companies and say, hey, why don't you have a company night down here? And $500 or
Yeah,
whatever.
we
and the
do
place
have
is
those
yours.
available. Do we actively market it? No, we just don't. I don't know if
You
we
know,
have the
just a way
staff
to think about
necessarily.
increasing revenues,
Great
something to
way.
market your facilities and that kind of thing.
But, yeah, but if you look at basically all of the staffing throughout all the recreation, it's just a staffing issue, being able to have somebody to sit down and
Cover that?
cover that. You know, it would be fine, it could be somebody at the rec center, or, I mean, it wouldn't have to be the pool, I mean, because they're only open a few months a year, but again, as we look at the number of staffing of people we got, they're just,
You end up hiring more guards?
other than the parks maintenance, every other facility essentially has one full-time person, and the rest is seasonal and part-time.
Well, there's a lot
Pretty
of
hard to,
kid lifeguards there, they're looking for a couple extra bucks that would work in the evening to cover a party, I would think.
oh, they'd definitely do it if we could get the marketing done to
Oh.
get the people there.
Yeah.
Oh, the kids will work, yeah, they'll take the money.
Market at ACCT and Foot Locker and some of the other big dogs around town, Walmart and
Well,
whatever.
and how we worked it in another community was that we weren't responsible for paying the guards. It was part of the fee. It would be
Right.
the rental fee,
It's out of
rental of
that.
the fee of we'd rent the pool for a couple hundred,
That's how we do
and
it.
then they would have to pay for
That's how we do
each
it.
and every, if they were going to bring 50 people, it's X number of guards, and you have to pay for the salary of those people.
That's how we do it now.
Yeah, okay, so same here.
But I think we need to be more proactive to
Agree.
try to get
Okay.
that business,
Noted.
however, whoever does it.
I know that I had a resident tell me a story about Spin City, that groups were coming from Manhattan because they don't have that recreational,
Right.
and so they were saying that there was every so often there'd be a group come over here because it was available. And is it the only one in the region?
Salina has a real small one, and Topeka has a real small one. Just really, it's just a skate floor only. It's not even really a fun center.
So we should market that, because I think there was one of our residents one night from White City
Yes.
that was saying, talking about Spin City. So that draws people in, but we need to get that word out.
That's
We
what
need to
they've been
raise
doing.
that revenue. If we can raise the attendance, then we don't have to raise the fee. So that would be something to work toward.
The past year, Ms. Mars and Ed have been working on just that, increasing attendance, and she's gotten a lot more parties.
Or private
booked,
rentals and
private
cars.
rentals booked than previous years. And they have a billboard that they're going to put up here very soon. It was a part of the marketing money that she asked for last year and got. And so there's going to be a billboard where on
We're targeting the traffic coming off of the Marshall Field Airfield and exit, and then Manhattan this way. So we're going to be along the apartments on Grandview Plaza. And the design's done, and I think I keep, any day now expect them to have them say, go out and look at it.
Okay.
We've signed the contract. And
Great.
Another thing that we've talked about before is that I think our signage for some of our facilities in this town is poor.
Yep.
You have to get lost to find Rayford Stadium, I think. We don't have any signs around that even tell you where it's at. Same thing with the Opera House and some different things around. I think we need more signage in town to point people to where our landmarks are.
we can do that.
I mean,
I agree.
now.
Directional signs.
Yeah.
And when the pool's open, it's just open a certain amount of time and there's nobody there otherwise, right?
We open the pool, and I don't know exactly what time. In the morning, we teach swim lessons.
I mean seasonal, like
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's
Yes.
completely closed.
Labor Day
Memorial
to...
till schools.
Oh, yeah,
starts.
once school's out, the
Yeah,
parks
yes.
maintenance crews winterize it, shut it down, and
Okay.
then we come back in and
I see expenses, I see expenses on the swimming pool, whether it's phone, whether it's utilities, whether it's computer. I see expenses annually on the pool. What's the reason behind that?
Now, I guess the phone we could probably shut off. We don't, except for I believe that what controls our alarm system. And then the internet, Mr. Gurman can explain better, to get that hooked up, we made an agreement with Cox to not
For
pay
so many years.
to not pay the infrastructure to have it run there, or fiber,
Rather-
I'm not sure what
yes.
exactly.
It-
And so we have to keep it
Pay a
on for
monthly
so
rate
long, for a
before
certain
the
amount of time, and I can't recall what that
It
is.
was so many years.
But that-
And I don't recall the number of years either, but the agreement was, rather than pay for it all up front,
Mhm.
because we didn't have the capital money up
For us
front
to
to
pay
pay
for
for
the
it, to get an internet connection there so that we could run our,
Yeah.
the POS system, the point-of-sale system to interconnect with the city, that we paid for it on a monthly basis rather than an all upfront cost.
We're talking the swimming pool.
Yes.
Originally, when there was no internet connection on that side of, on the park side of the street. Cox wanted $6,000, us to pay $6,000 to run a line to the pool so that they could operate the POS systems via the internet or connect to our servers. We came to an agreement that we would pay a monthly fee for a 5-year period in lieu of paying the $6,000. Cox Business ate the $6,000 it actually cost to run the line, as long as we agreed to keep the internet connection active for 12 months for a 5-year period.
So basically, it's
Yes.
borrowed.
That's why there's an internet charge.
That-
Yeah, just
Yes.
straight off.
That ends
Yes.
soon, I believe.
What's that?
That ends soon, I believe.
2016.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
A couple more years left.
Right.
But,
Okay.
Yeah.
and
And that's why we pay for it even when the pool's closed.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what my question was.
Yes, sir.
I've seen it on other,
Right.
right.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Very
Jim.
And then the phone system, as he said, is for the security alarm system. So if somebody is out there tampering and getting into stuff, there is an alarm. That's very expensive equipment that you want to protect.
And you don't want people in there
You don't want people in
getting
there.
hurt.
Well, and yeah, and that's chemicals and stuff too.
I mean, just,
Yeah.
it's not a place for people.
no, a good explanation, just
Yeah.
needed to know why.
Sure.
One question, the revenue that you make from this, what happens with the revenue? Does it offset the expenses?
It's general fund. General fund, it all goes to general fund revenue, and general fund comes all general fund expenses.
All right.
Even though I had that number wrong here, the important number is that it was right in here. That calculates the mill levy.
Okay. Nothing else, we'll go on to the golf course. Give you just briefly a staffing summary. We have one full-time manager, we have one full-time course superintendent, a full-time groundskeeper. We're staffed with one part-time administrative assistant. We have a part-time mechanic, and then we bring in various part-time clerks and cart attendants on a part-time basis and on a seasonal basis. So that's kind of how the staffing looks at this facility. I do want to visit with Cheryl real quick on the revenue side on the annual monthly fees, where you reduce that to 0. Remember, we had that conversation that
We just need to bring that up.
it needs to at least go back to the 2013 actual.
Yes.
We determined that was the people that pay for their annual fees.
Oh,
the
yeah, we had
payroll
left.
deduction, and I don't know why that got.
I don't know
that
why.
got reset
Well,
to 0,
We
so,
were checking that out, and then I didn't go back.
so
and
there's
put
going to
it
be
in.
5,000 or
10,000.
6,000.
5,000, 6,000. We put 6
increase-
in there.
Increase there.
And they just so you understand, they don't get a discount. There's no discount, and they're just allowed to pay it through payroll.
And that's line 369, you said 6,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Um,
should be
that-
6,000.
It's
Change that.
it's not a,
It's
no employee discount.
It's just the way they track it, because we're doing it through payroll deduction through, I think the school district offers that for us, and I know the city does, and I think maybe even some companies, John, maybe know better, but, so we don't.
It's a way to track
It's
it.
just a way to track it.
We put it in a separate line
Instead of
item to
being
see if
under the
anybody's
annual-
taking.
Instead of being under the annual fee.
Yeah.
Line item. We want to draw attention, again, if you look at all the revenues, Cheryl and I sat down with Mr. Bernstein, and we really took a hard look at what our actual revenues had been, and it looks like in the past, we had kind of the projections were always a little bit high, so we reduced those projections to really better reflect what we think the course is going to do in a year, instead of having that little bit higher projection. If you look at like the 2013 and 2014, those projection, or 2014 projection, at that 425 had been a number that had been up there for a while, and we really hadn't been meeting that number. So we reduced based on on historical, what we thought our revenues would be. So that, you'll notice a pretty drastic decrease in our revenues there. Another area we noticed that we could, based on historical, was on our part-time wages. We were able to reduce that quite a bit from the actual budgeted amount compared to the actual usage amounts on that. And then as we get down into the commodities and supplies, Cheryl had made some recommendations for some minor modifications on item 612. She reduced the fertilizer by $2,000. The motor fuel, reduced that some. On the postage delivery charges, just a slight amount. And then some of the larger amounts, and when we get into the supplies for food and vending and beer, again, kind of retweak those to closer look a little bit what we're actually spending and using. I did have a question because you brought it up at the beginning of the meeting, Cheryl. Line item 738, the insurance and bonds. This, prior to 12, was a revenue fund, and I believe we were charging that out of there at that time.
Yes.
And so it's still carrying over, and you noticed we're not getting a consistent.
Yeah, and it does get charged. They got some charge there in 2013, but not the full amount. Yeah, it will get charged out.
Okay.
And that's why I brought it down 1,000 too.
And then since we've visited Cheryl, Mr. Bernstein and I have talked, we thought we'd tweak down the 745, the maintenance repair golf carts, as we looked at that and realized that with the new cart fleet, the maintenance has dropped dramatically, but we still do have a couple of old carts that the maintenance guys use, like a beverage cart, so we wanted to leave some monies in there, so we thought we'd move that down to like the $1,500 range.
Oh, the 3,000?
The 3,000 down to 1,500.
So you've had a chance to look at that.
Yeah,
Good.
because the new fleet, really the main maintenance is just maintenance on the batteries, fluids, and cleaning the batteries. So
745.
Yeah, so I had asked him to take another additional look at that and to say, you know, they really need that money.
so we can.
Well, that was one of my questions, that we had all the new leased golf carts, why we had that much repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again,
Okay.
like I say, we still have, which is, although it's equipment, but because they're carts, we still have two old carts the maintenance guys use. They have a range picker and a beverage cart they're the old stuff, and so they're going to need some maintenance to keep them going.
Do you know offhand on 753 what all that includes, what equipment rentals?
I do. 753 is basically, that's the new, this is a lease, that is the new carts. That is the new carts, and then the new golf carts that we purchased last year. And there's, the actual lease is just a little bit less than that, but we do occasionally have to rent an air compressor to blow out the irrigation system if Public Works is not available, if their equipment's not available. So there's about $1,500 in there to rent a compressor if need be.
How big is the compressor?
Just a tow behind, like you see what they use with the jackhammers on the street.
Oh, okay. That's expensive.
Remember that was done, we did a cost-benefit analysis and determined it was cost beneficial to lease rather than purchase.
Okay.
And we try to use Public Works' equipment if it's available, but not always available.
Okay.
The weather turns cold, you gotta go.
Got to do it. Takes a lot of air.
Yep.
Okay. I had a couple questions on your annual fees. When's the last time fees were raised, and relative to other golf courses,
Sure.
is,
If it's okay, I'd like to let Mr. Bernstein answer that.
January
He's-
was the most recent fee increase. As far as where we are in line with other courses, we are definitely less money than all. The only one that's near to us is Custer Hill. They made some major changes to their fee structure based on mine. They took everything that we did, tried to undercut us on pretty much every line item. But we are right in line with everybody else. Just a little bit under.
How many rounds of golf do we play a year out there?
Approximately 18,000.
18,000?
We would certainly have more if I could control the weather.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm working
In the
on it.
budget, put it in there.
A very common occurrence just happened a couple days ago where we got 3 inches of rain in one day. And what happens is the saturation level is such that carts must remain on the footpath, and that limits a lot of the older players. Well, it hinders their ability to play because they have to walk too far. So the numbers tend to drop when we get lots of rain. Obviously, they're going to drop with cold and snow,
Right.
but June has been a very, very good month, however, so far.
If we raised our rates $4, would that 18,000 drop significantly?
If we raised it $4 across the board for
Right,
every
for
single thing?
for everybody.
Or just the, we're talking about the annual fees, the daily fees,
$4 for a round of golf,
green fees.
green fees.
green fees?
You know, all-
That's a question that I'm not prepared to answer at this time. I would certainly love to visit and further discuss it, but I have questions in response to your question that might take up quite a bit of time.
Memberships, you know, remember, a lot of that play is done by members, or are paying a flat fee.
Well, we got a lot more dollars off just regular green fees than we do membership fees.
Yeah.
A lot
Oh, yeah.
more, significantly.
And this is one of the first times in quite a while that the daily fee numbers are higher. We're seeing more play from daily fee people than annual fee people. Now, part of that is due to the recent deployments from military base, because quite a few of our annual fee payers were military. The other part of that is the daily fee numbers have increased because of current conditions. Which, if you called Stag Hill today, they're closed because they're underwater. We were open and in fabulous shape, although carts were on the path. So, I mean, people like to play. The best form of advertising for golf are your conditions.
Right.
You've got some golfers in the front row that would probably agree with that. If your conditions are good, you're going to get players. So,
There's,
to answer your question, I think that's a difficult question at this time for me to answer.
and
Well,
we've had quite a bit of discussion about what we could do for local players. And I was just curious as to whether, if we raised the fees, $4 for green fees, and if a local person played 25 rounds of golf a year, then at the end of the year, we'd have to probably talk to the chamber and figure out how to make it work, but could we give that person back?
We've done quite a bit for local players in my short tenure at Rolling Meadows. We created the Sunflower Trail fee with 10, 11 other courses now. So that gives our players an opportunity to go play somewhere when we have a tournament at a very low rate. We've added the low price for merchandise. We've created an additional time frame for them to make tee times, so they have a preferred system. We've created quite a few positive experiences for our annual fee payers to make it more attractive to join.
I think what the mayor is saying is that $4 per green fee, and then, let's say, $100 more on the yearly membership fee. And if you're a Junction City resident and you play 25 rounds of golf, then in, let's say, December 1, at Christmas time, you get $100 of chamber bucks back to you for playing 25 rounds of golf that you can spend on any business here in Junction City. Same thing if you're a seasonal member. You pay $100 more, where you're going to get $100 back of benefit to pay
Talking a rebate.
a
A
rebate
rebate program. A rebate
Way to
program.
look at it, yeah.
Chamber bucks.
for
Bucks.
Junction City residents.
Right.
Not just local players, but Junction City residents who
Oh, wow.
fund that golf course with a deficit of $150,000. It's an idea.
It's an idea.
And
I never looked at that angle. It's-
And when you're talking raising greens fees, just the greens fees at $4 a greens fee, that cuts your deficit in half.
Yes, it would.
That's $72,000, and it gets you a lot closer to being in the black.
Provided they would continue to play at that.
Well, I think, and I think Mr. Bernstein hit it on the head. As long as we have a good quality course, they're going to play.
And we do now. A few years ago, it was in pretty rough shape until
Right.
he got here and got things straightened out.
So, I think
Nice
it
new
is good.
carts.
Right. I think it's worth it.
Try it.
I really like the thought of cutting this deficit. If we keep moving forward, and if we can cut it in half by one fell swoop, that's going to go a long way toward our fiscal responsibility.
And there's no, by doing the rebate at the end of the year, it doesn't put your person at the cash register in any trouble trying to check somebody's residence or driver's license or whatever. Same rate across the board. And you log everybody's address when they check in. Oh, yeah, it's Mr. Aska, and he lives here, and boom, we log that time. And then the people that don't have an annual membership, they've got to play 25 rounds of golf to do that. And every time they're in there, they buy a soda, they buy other beverages and whatnot. So more business even coming in. Oh, boy, I need to get 5 more rounds in before the year's out. Yeah. Something to think about.
It is something to think about. And think about Mr. Aska out there. It's going to cost us a lot more in repair.
But golf ball sales, though.
I would
Golf ball sales will go up.
I disagree because I'm always in the rough, so.
Don't have to fix the road.
Yeah.
Just kind of think about it and chew it. I'm not sure that
Think
we
about
can
that.
directly compare ourselves with Custer Hill since they're a federally funded golf course. I wish, I wish they had to play by a little different rules to some degree, but
Yeah.
I don't think $22 for a round of golf is a bad deal at all. And I think, you've done a wonderful job out there, and it is a premium course, in my opinion, in this area. So,
Okay, we'll try to put some numbers or a proposal together that works within and get back with you on that. Super.
Line item 652, what tools, and there was something about,
Basically, what we're just looking for is down at the greenskeeper shop, just what you'd think any facility would have, just your ratchet sets and tools, maybe a skill saw or something, even chainsaws. Due to not spending, the employees had been bringing their own stuff from home for a long time, and we finally got to thinking, that's probably, you guys, we got to budget a little bit of money in there and try to get some. Now, the mechanic is a little, it's not so unusual that he has his own tools, but just, and I think, am I right, John? Just your basic,
Yeah.
general, whatever repair, like a maintenance shop would have in tools, needs
hammer
to
and a
be-
screwdriver.
Yeah,
Right, the
I mean,
basics.
needs to be funded, and I know for a fact that a lot of that they don't have is because for a while, even we were loaning a lot, like some of our saws and power equipment at the Parks Department to get by the real hard times. But I just think now where we need to start
It's a
letting them
thousand
get
even.
it.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, just let them
A
start.
little bit
getting-
at a
let 'em
time.
get some-
Again, it's back to the same as the pool doors.
Yeah.
A little bit
Let 'em get-
every year,
let 'em
start
get-
tackling this problem, little bites at a time, and we'll
I
get
knew
there.
that increase would catch, and so I wanted to
Okay.
exactly what's happening or had happened.
I'm going to start sending them to garage sales.
To buy golf balls.
No, to buy some tools.
There's some good stuff out there.
He usually has tournaments on weekends, so.
what is the big utility user, 736? Is that just air conditioning?
736.
Refrigeration for the coolers and whatnot, probably.
Water pumps. Basically, the clubhouse itself is all electric. There's no gas out there. That whole area is all, I think, is all
Yeah,
electric.
it is all electric.
And so electric heat is obviously not the
Expensive.
best way to go. But, and then out at their little maintenance shop, they have a propane heater and they have a 500-gallon tank that they fill with that, and that's some of your gas utilities. But
Yeah,
it's,
the gas is
that's
propane.
basically, it's just all electric. There's no natural gas to heat. And I think that's where,
Okay, that's just
and DS&O rates are low.
mostly the clubhouse, and
Basically.
Yeah.
And then,
we don't have lights out on the course.
no.
Right.
no.
Okay.
And then the cart barns, to charge the batteries. But
Yes, and the other part is it's DS&O, it's not Westar,
DS&O
so
is a
the
higher
rates
price.
are higher.
yes,
Okay.
So it does appear to be a little abnormally high, but there's a couple factors for that. Okay,
That's all I have.
anything else? We need to move along, we're getting behind. Steve's gonna go to sleep over there and all that.
He'll wake up shortly, though.
Yeah, keep going.
I'm excited.
Okay. Are we ready to, we're on to Spin City?
Yes.
Okay, real quickly, the staffing, again, one full-time manager. We have one part-time assistant manager, real similar to the pool. When we're open, we want a management-type person in the building on site, and the rest of the staffing is then part-time clerks and supervisors, real similar to the pool. The supervisor folks are the ones that can handle the money, and the clerks assist the patrons. There is an error again on the revenue side. The concession proceeds here should be at basically $22,000 instead of $2,200. So that changes our revenues from the 117,700 to 137,500.
We love hit that.
Or, yeah, 130, yeah, so that's a benefit there.
Double check my statement.
Item number 3, you'll see the decrease per this group's request last year. We had been showing movies in the theater, and we're paying the licensing fee. We're not spending that money in this year. It shouldn't have been in the 2014. It just didn't get taken out, so we shouldn't even really be seeing that deficit this year. It just after the process, it didn't get removed from that. So because we aren't, at your request, we're not doing that
Movies
activity.
anymore,
We're having gaming tournaments in the theater instead is what their activity are doing there.
Kids are enjoying that.
Wanted to bring attention to line item 703. That's the billboard advertising that we'd mentioned earlier when we were on one of the other budgets. Just a real quick snapshot of that. When we put a pencil to that, I think 58 additional patrons a month, or 6 per time we're open, is going to offset the cost of this. And we're thinking that exposure we're going to get on I-70 is easily going to do that, because one of the things the staff says they do here is that a lot of people, when they get there, they're like, wow, we didn't even know this place was here. And so that's what kind of led us to
Did you have
looking
the
at that.
artwork to show them?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
It is awesome.
You hear that a lot
The
about a lot
billboard.
of our facilities. Go back to your signage, is after
Exactly.
people get here, then they say, oh, we didn't know it was here, this is really cool, but they don't
The
know.
artwork on the billboard is awesome. Lindsay was the creator of it, and she just took her idea to them and said, this is what I want you to create for me, and she had a very clear idea of what she was looking for, and they took it and put it into an art schematic that was really awesome.
Good job. I hope it's even up yet today or tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah, it's soon. It's any day.
That's our.
Have you ever advertised in the Manhattan Mercury, since they don't have a facility like this?
I don't
We haven't.
think they have.
Like
We-
maybe
we-
once,
We do-
on a
we
couple
haven't.
Saturdays a month or something?
I know and I don't know the name of the
Well,
stations, we do try to, on our radio ads, we try to focus on some of the stations that are more leaning towards the Manhattan crowd.
This is the first year
Some of the
we
younger
increased the
type
marketing
music, I
budget.
don't know, but
Yeah, this is the first year we increased the marketing budget, and that was the reason why was to try to get marketing out and to give her monies to, where she gets most of her parties is from the schools and contacts through the schools and all of the local areas, Abilene, White City,
Right.
all of that. And so that she'd have more, the ability to do that. And that was the purpose of getting this marketing money in there, to try to, usage is going to take us out of this deficit. Because it
Right.
too is not a wide margin. And we just need, and that, the other part, as he mentioned it earlier, is we are looking to bring forth to you increase, fee increase at the door.
We're not looking for dramatic, but the thing we offer is, for the money you spend, the hours we're open during each shift is what's really the big difference. Our prices are real similar, but people get a lot more value at our rink, just the way we're designed.
The intent here is before we go to final budget approval, we'll have something to them. We can have it, because he's got the research, I think, almost done.
I think we got that
So we're
down.
ready to get that to you, and that would be an increase that would be implemented soon.
We could just do.
We just do it within the next month and a half, and that would then reflect in the final budget numbers.
Gets us closer to the black.
Yes, that's the intent. We're giving you what is more realistic right now, but if we go ahead and approve that, then we can change that revenue number. We should have that probably either the first or second meeting in July. We could have it.
Some numbers in my head already, yeah.
Okay? Probably the first meeting in July would be realistic.
I think it'd be great to have a folder packet, something like this, whatever, to give to every grade school within 25 miles. Give it to the principal's office so that they have that and they know about this facility over here.
Cool.
You know, pictures and contact information and all the different types of things that they can do there.
And I know Lindsay's, they have the Facebook and the Twitter. I mean, I know Lindsay's, that's what a lot of the kids nowadays are really following, and I think that's been somewhat
I mean,
successful.
the teachers and the PTA groups, they're the ones that drive all that.
Yeah.
They do. They're the ones that get
They
those parties
know who we
going.
are.
Mhm.
We got a better chance of hooking them.
With the artwork that was done, and it's really impressive, we can use that as our theme.
Right.
And artwork and launch that with putting together a professional flyer.
Once you get the kids there, they'll love it and want to come back.
Okay,
They'll ask for it.
put something together.
Well, those were just kind of the things I wanted to highlight.
I had a question on 622. What goes into recreational supplies?
Sure. It's basically a lot of the redemption from the games and the resale items that we sell, all the toys, and like when they play the skee ball and they get tickets and they redeem items. Party supplies, we have a birthday party, the tablecloths, the cups, kind of items like that.
Okay.
But basically, a good portion of it is resale items, the little candy bars and little
Trinkets.
rings and trinkets and necklaces and hats and goofy glasses and stuff that's mainly the resale
Okay.
items.
What are their other services? Back on that tonight.
Okay, their other services is really a similar, the normal, what you would have in repairs,
Oh,
HVAC, plumbers,
Electrical.
electricians. But one thing that they have that's a little different is, this is where we pay for our credit card fees, our surcharges. When people swipe a credit card, we have to budget for that as an expenditure. And then we have alarm monitoring in there too that.
Security
we have
system.
to- That's a monitoring service that we have to pay a monthly fee.
We've had, not recently, but last year, it was a lot of that electrical. There were several electrical repairs that were done.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of, all those lights and everything, there's lots of.
See, in 2012, the
strobes,
79.
It's
79853,
It's to
there was a surge in that because we had quite a few electrical repairs that year. There were several electrical problems we had to take care of. One of them was, didn't meet code on that one box.
Mhm, the
And we had to,
service.
the
Upgrade the
service box
service.
didn't meet code for some reason.
Our building and it didn't
I
meet
know.
code?
How that They were doing, Westar pointed it out to us, and they were doing something on a electrical repair, and then they said, well, your box needs fixed. So, we did, of course. But that's the spike there was quite a bit of electrical work that was done that year. But that's the typical line item that you would, that gets pulled out of, where we contract with professionals and services for repairs. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay. Last one, we'll get to recreation. Obviously, the
12th
12th
Street.
Street Community Center, the Recreation Division, staffing on that, we have one full-time manager. We also have one part-time administrative assistant, secretary type position, and then we have 5 part-time gym supervisors, facility supervisors that kind of oversee the activities at the building. I do want to bring attention there, and the revenues, or excuse me, not the revenues, the expenses on the salaries are not correct at the 117 compared to our current, right now is 133. Cheryl and I had some conversations, and we had, again, just like we talked about at the Parks Department had requested to make a position full-time. And so when that was taken out, too much was taken out, it actually took away the additional position that you folks had asked us to do to start opening the center on Sunday
So you need more
this
back
year.
in part-time?
So we need to add, we're one person short according to the budget now
On part-time?
on the part-time. So that number is going to be, the salaries is going to be somewhere closer to that 133.30. I don't have the exact numbers. That
Okay.
was kind of a last-minute catch.
One took it out. I took out too many when we were readjusting. Okay.
Just something to bring attention to, line item number 630, the computer hardware. We had a computer lab that was funded basically by the school district. The school district had backed out of that agreement, took their computers away. Actually, it was somewhat, maybe a little bit underutilized portion of the building, so we had built a dividing wall in that room and added some exercise equipment that was donated to us, and then built a smaller computer lab, budgeted for that last year. The computers are here, they're not installed yet. We requested 8 last year. Cheryl allowed us to get 4, so I requested 2 more this year, and it looks like she's reduced that back to 1 this year. Trying to get to 5 or 6 is a size number we think would be good to make it big enough if you were to teach a class on some basic computer skills, that you've got enough terminals that would make it worth the instructor's time and things. So we're looking forward to getting that back and opened up. And really no other major changes anywhere across the other than the basic based on actual cost type items. We have had, kind of like the golf, we've had some real success since we've had to downsize with staffing. Donna has brought several new programs to the facility. With our staffing, the way we're trying to do it is we're contracting with instructors instead of actually putting them on staff. Is we will come up with a program. She can answer better than I can, but I know we have like a safe sitter program that teaches kids how to be babysitters, and how we work those is we contract with a certified person that can teach that class. Based on the number of students, they get a percentage of it. So we're looking for new ways to get some programming events going on without actually having to add additional staffing. Those some of the things we've done, and then we're just also some of the new things they've done is, or she's done is just trying to get the word out to get people down to our center. Is we're doing stuff at the beginning of school, the end of school, kind of a little bit, just kind of a big kind of party, and like you say, getting the word out to the schools, getting that information out to them, and going do that. So.
The only real revenue, substantial revenue source on this is the liquor tax, and that really is money that's funneled through us from the purchase of liquor through liquor stores. And that money, the numbers there are estimates that we get for 14 and 15 through the League of Kansas Municipality sends out to the cities through a contract from the state of Kansas on what those numbers are estimated to be for the next, this year and next year. We don't even plug that number in. That comes from the state of Kansas. They tell us what they think it's going to be.
What line was that?
304, the liquor tax.
The
Oh.
revenue.
It's not even a number I create, it's
I
a
don't know if
number
that's
they
just from
create.
Lathrop Stadium or what.
Thought we were selling out of 12th Street or something now.
Some different kind of workout down there.
What
Where-
about Summer Fun Club? Why is that a zero?
Summer Fun Club was operated by the city several years ago. The school district then, through grant dollars, was able to come up with a similar program that was income-based, basically, on a sliding scale. Once the school district started it, because of their ability to do it on an income base, we kind of put us out of business. We kind of, the activity kind of
And we don't
went
have
away several years ago. And then they kind of had been partnering with us at the 12th Street Center some, but more at the skating rink for about 4 years. They used the skating rink, Spin City, as part of the Boys and Girls Club, but it was taking the place of the Summer Fun Club. It was doing those activities. It was even a little broader than Summer Fun Club. Summer was just in the summer, as where the Boys and Girls is doing before and after school activities throughout the year, and then pretty much all-day activities when school's out.
Okay.
But then they've since changed their direction and due to funding too, and
Yeah,
are
they had-
taking that different directions.
They had funding cuts, and so
So that's
Mr.
just one of those on there it's been several, you can see there's nothing even since 11.
Until,
I think it's since 08, we haven't
Yeah.
had Summer Fun Club.
and I don't know what got dropped in there in 2013, but once that 13 number goes away, then we'll take the line item out. But since Mr. Walker, we had met with Mr. Walker, and he explained that they had budget cuts just like we had budget cuts, and the withdrawal from the Spin City to their facility where they don't have to pay, so that's why they discontinued services at Spin City.
It's Spin City.
How much did we lose on that?
66,000.
Or not get on that, I guess.
66,000.
That would have brought us.
That's basically equal to the deficit now
Really
that we
close
carry
to,
on.
yeah, real close
pretty
to
much
zero.
everything. Yeah.
Spin City, remember, up until last year, well, a year and a half ago now, that since they left, because they left in mid-year, was, except for the debt, was breaking even. But once the school district left, that's where we're at a loss now.
Exactly.
Because the original plan was that the school district was going to stay in that facility. And then once they left, then that left us with deficit.
And we had a conversation with the new superintendent, I guess he hasn't started yet,
Yeah.
to maybe,
Yes, that would be
if
the
they could
intent.
look at new grant funding and find another
Yes.
source to fund that program, that would,
And some of those conversations were already started.
There has been some interest in.
They just got 8 million.
There has been some preliminary discussion towards that direction. So we're hoping the new superintendent will be more amenable and
sure they're not happy about their building inspections, but
to partner back up
that's
with
what
us.
goes.
Even if they used, maybe not the full $66,000 worth, or just a partial use, maybe the after school and the before schools, that, who knows? We'll be creative in our discussions with them and try to see where we can partner back up.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of partnered with them too on all our Safe Routes to School stuff that we've funded without any money from them at all. So, I mean, we kind of
Yes.
give back a little bit too,
Well,
so
just like on
remember to play that card.
pulling the computers out of the recreation center, it was unfortunate that we later learned that the computers that they pulled out then were thrown away. They weren't even reused. So that was disappointing.
I have a little concern about buying a computer a year software changes, and then you're gonna have so many different flavors of one thing down there. That's a bit of a concern. I'm sure Mr. German can work his magic,
But he's talking about is,
I-
were you, on your
that is a
recommendations?
bit of a concern to me.
I had 1850 to get,
Oh, yeah.
I had 1850 to get 2 computers, that was the
Yeah.
exact price.
I mean,
and
you
then
get a new computer,
reduced it to
monitor, everything for about
1250, so
$500.
Yeah.
So
That's only gonna be 1 and
Yeah.
then nothing, or either do 1 or,
It was just to be one. But, I mean, we can bump it back up. As you can see, we've got revenue up and revenue down in different places. By the time this all works out in the end, you'll know whether or not we need to, that we can increase or decrease based on all of our conversations later, in a month from now. I mean, if it's something that you'd like to consider, us to consider putting the money back in, that's what we'll do.
thank you.
At this time, we can
Less,
put it in and then talk about it later.
less spending.
The other avenue too was, some of our computers that we do, for instance, we have a computer, a frontline computer, we're going to replace it out in the 4 and 5 years as recommended, okay? And when I consider frontline computers, it's, first of all, is the customer service department. We're going to make sure they have computers that are working and working well. If a frontline computer gets pulled down and still a usable computer,
be transferred over there.
it would be transferred to somewhere like here.
Yeah, word processing, little internet, done.
Yeah, because we're not asking it to
Right,
do a
that's
lot.
what- mhm.
And that's what we've talked about with the
Great.
center.
Let people do homework on them, and,
That's all you need.
and
And
Basics.
the same with,
and I'm sure Jim's priced them that way.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And then the same with the computer that the facility dudes needs for the maintenance guys. It doesn't need to be top-of-the-line fancy computer. It
Right.
needs to be a used one or a real basic, simple model system, because it's really the only thing they're using it for is internet and
Work
and
orders.
the work orders.
Yep.
So we're not getting top of the line for those. They're either getting the ones that are passed down through the system, or they're getting a very simplified.
Hard drives work.
Yeah. So that was the intent for this long
Okay.
term.
Okay.
Right now, we were just trying to get to the point where we had computers down there because the school district had pulled theirs all out.
Check their dumpster.
Well, had we known that that's what was going to happen to them, we would have begged harder. We just later found out that they weren't even
Oh, yeah.
reused. It's like, ah!
They were taking them to repair them, is what we were told.
Yeah, we were told they were taking them to repair them, and then we found out they didn't even reuse them.
They didn't come back.
That's just.
That's okay. It's all done. That's all.
So-
We'll do something. We're going.
Your money again, though,
Okay.
just in a different organization.
One quick 715, we went from $700 to $6,000. What is in that building maintenance and repair?
Okay. We went on actual usage. That's the actual. I don't think it was budgeted that low in the past. Again, that is the building maintenance repair. That's going to be our HVAC. We
floor.
talked about that roof hiring contract. We talked about the Spency as one of the roofs that it has issues, plumbing and electrical. And I do know that.
Okay, I
haven't
thought
got
this was
pricing.
12th Street. I didn't know. it
Oh,
was-
I'm sorry. You're right.
This is 12th Street.
Ooh,
Well, 12th Street,
You got me on
that's
the-
had the one roof problem. We've
Yes.
got to figure, we need to,
Okay.
and the reason,
Let me go back.
we need to figure out what's going on with that roof, because
Got
that's
the roof.
it leaks on the gym floor. And
I know what
that's
this is
pricey.
for. And I think, like I say, this showing the actual, and like Commissioner Landis said, maybe we should show the actual budgeted. I think in the past, it's been budgeted at that level. We're not looking necessarily,
Increase.
so it was just a budgeted, just the gym.
Gym floor.
Gym floor, we refinish annually. All just the electronics and run the scoreboards, or the basketball goals up and down. I'm trying to think, what other maintenance issues are we having at the 12th Street Center?
We've
On
got
the
to
building
figure out
maintenance
that roof.
repair. Yeah, like I say, we don't have a real track record of having those issues. It's just,
So what would you consider, you'd want
if you're looking
10% or a reduction there? Is that what you're
to
asking?
do that until they. Right, but,
Not every, you do it every year?
well, actually, that's not
I thought you had
exactly true.
floor
That's not what
elsewhere.
we're doing, that's not what we're doing the floor out of.
That's under other services, I thought.
No, the floor is, we're doing it ourselves, it's under 603.
Oh, it's under 603,
'Cause
because you buy
our
the
staff does it-
supplies?
Our staff does it ourselves, right.
Okay.
So, again, I don't have any notes, Commissioner McAllister, I just,
Consider reducing.
I guess that would be one we could consider reducing. One that got over.
Reduce it to 5K.
Okay,
That sounds
we can look
fair.
at 5 on that.
Sure.
Have we used some money allocated this year for that, though? The 6K for that?
Pardon me?
Have we used that money that's allocated already?
The
No.
6
No?
No.
So in essence, we actually may be able to get it fixed for this amount, and next year, if it's
Potentially.
fixed, we not even need it.
Potentially.
Yeah, that, we were looking at getting
It's all
some of that road
carryover, and
repair
if they
this
don't
year.
use it, they just roll it into next year.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we don't.
all
we
general
don't get-
fund, so-
It rolls back into the general fund. It-
Just
Yeah,
because
it-
they have it doesn't mean that they spend it.
Right.
You know,
No.
That's what we're kind of forgetting here.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
And it all washes out on the levy and all of that ultimately.
I think we cut it in half then, because we may get it fixed this year.
Kind of walking a thin line there with HVAC
Yeah, I'm just
stuff.
trying, went through so many different buildings in my head, I'm trying to think if I thought we could have done it for a lot less, I wouldn't have put it in there.
Okay.
I apologize for not having the exact, what we plan on doing with it.
So 6
I put a
isn't-
question
I
mark
looked at-
behind it, and then if it looks tight on somewhere else, I'll review with it him again. Just as last year, we'll kind of before we finalize numbers, and I'll give you a summary in July, before you go to a vote to publish, I'll give you a summary of all the changes and what we did and how we did it. Then it gets before you on the commission meeting to go to the vote, to go to publication, just like last year.
I believe that is it for Parks and Rec. Thank you.
We had a break scheduled, but I didn't know if you want to plow on through.
Want a break?
Kind of,
Yes.
5 minutes.
Yes.
That's old guys need one.
Go get a piece of pizza.
Should've bought some tractors, I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready now.
so, the budget
We're
is-
fed,
You ready?
we're empty, and we're
Piece
full.
of pizza, and we're ready to roll. We can go here in a couple hours.
You'll be here by yourself.
We're gonna have to
I'd like
try
to
this
lower
one.
that by 10%.
Budget session's back in
Okay,
session?
hour and
Okay,
40
back
minutes.
in
in.
session.
Tyler's going to remain in his seat over there, and he's going to talk to you about municipal court and prosecution.
Yes. In this budget, it includes 3 court clerks, a judge, a prosecutor, legal assistant, and a public defender. This year, we're asking for $447,000 in the 2015 budget, a difference of an increase of about $22,000. Of that increase, 56% of it is for personnel costs. That's the COLA increase and the associated capers and retirement benefits associated with that. As we go through a couple of the items to point out, one of the items that we requested that was not forwarded along by the manager was a part-time position over in the prosecutor's office. I'd ask you to turn your attention to page 32 of the Reader's Guide. This provides information about the city's diversion program. You can see that since 2007, the number of diversions processed by the city has increased substantially by approximately 400 diversions per year. We have one person who handles those over there. That's our legal assistant. And you can see below the diversion fees collected have increased by 100%, or $30,000 to $40,000. And so while that is a good development for the city, it's collecting more revenue through those diversions, it does create a lot of paperwork for our prosecutor. And that's why we had requested an additional part-time staff person in the prosecutor's office. I know one of the things that the prosecutor wanted to address was a community service program. That's something that we're probably not able to do right now, just given the workload that they have over there.
In all, the comment in there I want to add before we switch to another subject is of all, I count out all new positions except for the ones in the enterprise funds. But in the general fund, all new positions were cut out. But I specifically told Krista if I had a wish for any one of them to go back, it would be that part-time position. And that's why we would plead to you if you felt it was justified to put that one back in. The cost of that part-time person was going to be the $12,000. They truly, this is the one fund, one sub-fund within the general fund that actually generates revenue through tickets, the processing of the tickets. The police department writes the tickets. They're the ones who process all of it. And it's a fund generator. It's a positive fund generator for the city. And the only way that they can increase that revenue is through diversions and the police issuing more tickets. So, I mean, that's the bottom line. In order to do that we're talking about the need for more staff. And so it was a really tough one for me to say no new positions, and this was one of them I had to cut.
This is for prosecutor, right?
This is
Or
for
is
the
it-
prosecution office itself. She has one secretary,
Clerical.
one clerical
Oh,
person.
okay.
And she has one full-time clerical. We're not asking for the court clerks to increase. And I think you'll see when I show you later in the court, and he'll bring up under the Capitol, in the new courtroom, I'm going to suggest new and efficient ways to make the court clerks more efficient and help them do their jobs easier, but in their new office space through a little bit of capital investment. But this is a position where there isn't any capital investment I can make to have a community service program and to support the diversion program. It's not through capital investment, it's through people. The only way you can improve on their work is adding more help. She's been lucky to find 2 last year and this summer, an intern for just a few weeks in the summer, and it's amazing how much more work she can get done with just a little bit of help. And it's because
Generate more revenue.
to generate more revenue. Because this is one of the few, government in the past doesn't necessarily generate, government in general doesn't generate revenue very well because of what we do, but this is one place that they need help. And I promised her I was going to say that, and because I mean it. I hated, this is one of the ones I hated to cut, but if there was a plea to be made, it'd be for this position. And I want you to mull that over to see what you think about adding that back in.
Are they part of the fines and forfeitures
On diversions?
under revenue?
You want, it's
Sorry.
mainly through to manage the diversions.
Mhm.
And Krista can answer you how a diversion operates and why it takes additional paperwork.
And it's, you group fines and forfeitures. Forfeiture proceedings, those types of things are actually handled through the county attorney's office. There's a separate attorney that handles any forfeiture. We don't tend to, the forfeiture laws are very specific in the types of crimes that you can forfeit from. And so, generally speaking, those are felony charges, higher level drug offenses, those types of things that we don't have jurisdiction for in the municipal court. So as far as using the word forfeiture, no, that type of stuff isn't. Obviously, our diversion program, diversion is basically a way to avoid a conviction on a record. There's increased fines and fees that would be associated with those versus somebody who's guilty in municipal court. This position, the reason I feel it's important is, one, we don't even have supervised probation through municipal court. There's nobody who supervises and I believe the July 12 to July 13 caseload through municipal court for cases filed was like 4,500 cases. So of those people that are put on probation, nobody's supervised. So nobody's held accountable coming in and paying their fines and costs that are owed to the court. I mean, to some degree they are. They come into court, they have a payment review, but that's it. 9 times out of 10, my excuse that I hear is, well, I'm on probation in district court, so I'm worried about them taking my money. I'm worried about going to jail there. I'm worried about prison time there. And we don't have that person that they have to report to here. Obviously, a diversion officer, understand, I have one assistant. So my assistant pulls court for all 3 court days. She meets with every single person who applies for diversion. She handles discovery for every single attorney or private pro se defendant who's requesting discovery. She handles my calendar as far as scheduling for me. She is the only person in my office that handles, well, short of me, that handles those things. Cheryl mentioned when I bring in an intern, that's when your ordinances get changed. That's when everything you guys see updates over here, is because now I have a second person that can look at other things, can pull those things, do that. We bring another office personnel in. I have another person that can handle the court pulling, the scheduling, the day-to-day, and I have one person that can meet with diversions, be more efficient with that, and free up that time that we have that goes and doubles. Basically, my assistant spends probably a whole entire week of overtime to prepare for an entire week of vacation. You know, the hours she puts in, I mean, basically she can comp her vacation time because she has to put in the extra hours to prepare for court for the next time. A part-time person would, one, cut down on that, so basically we don't look at overtime, and she's very good about managing her hours and trying to manage her time with that, and is very respectful to the city of the time that she gets. But the reality is, I mean, you know, a part-time person would be able to cut that workload, so she could go on vacation and be like, okay, when I come back, I'm not going to have 45 phone calls for diversion appointments and 4 days full of diversion conferences, and still try to get the work done for the day-to-day. I just think it's something that's necessary and needed for us. That's why I guess I would use the word plea. I plea to the commission to consider that in this year's
I know a guy who set up diversion and community service in 2 different jurisdictions, and he's pretty good, I'm told.
He's looking for part-time work?
I'm done.
The interesting thing is that the judge hasn't been really willing to do a lot of community serve force assignments because we have no one to supervise them.
And that becomes a real key there, because it's just being able to follow up at a quicker pace and stuff. And because and they know if you aren't watching them,
it ain't gonna happen.
They will drag it out. Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
We do try to offer with the Earth Day cleanup. We try to offer that to some of the patrons or some of the defendants that go through court, citizens. So we do try to offer, if the city has something where we know that there's going to be a number of us there to be able to supervise, we do, I mean, we try to, but
you still got to, these phone calls and make sure,
make sure they're there.
Right, well, and I guess I personally did it, and Ms. Brown has personally done it for the last couple of years prior to that, as far as just supervising. They're at check-in with it when everybody checks in at 8 a.m., or they're at noon when everybody checks out, and they have to specifically check out with us. So, yes, we're open to it, but the reality is it's staffing, monitoring,
it's hit and miss.
crediting. Exactly.
Well, and there are a lot of tasks that we can do with community service, like just picking up garbage in the parks and things like that we can assign them without a lot of supervision, but you still need to know that drop them off, somebody's there to make sure they were there and that they were actually there for all those 4 hours they said they worked. And
trust me, if you don't have somebody supervising them,
they're not there.
Yeah.
So they have to be supervised, and you have to know what's going on and where they're at, and that somebody's been assigned to them, things like that. It's something we've always wanted to do, and it's something we should be doing. We just don't have staff to do it. So we would have you consider before the end of this budget cycle is over that we would reconsider that part-time position.
That's in here, right?
It is not in there. I took it out.
So
the way I felt necessary to approach budget Cecil this year was that there were no new positions.
This one's right here.
Okay.
Travel was going to get cut. Fuel costs crossed 10% across the board because we're going to a new system. If you didn't have a historical proof of money being spent, you weren't going to get new unless you had a really good justification for it. We're not buying new vehicles probably. If you can get by with used, we're going to do used vehicles. If you really didn't need capital, like the one truck, and you know he said that he could make it do one more year with the one truck, it was cut. It was, as you saw, the trend already. It was cut. So
The other change kind of in this budget is addressing utilities and contract services legal. With the proposed new building, it's going to be a larger facility, so we expect the utilities will reflect that. The contract for legal services, that's for defense attorney work. If the public defender has a conflict of interest, or if there's, for example, a domestic case where there's a public defender needed for 2 individuals, then that comes from that item.
Just for kind of guidance as far as the commission goes with that, and it's more, I guess, of a proper and possible alternative solution in that regard. Obviously, we have multiple cases where they're co-defendants. People going in groups, stealing at Walmart, domestic situations, possession of marijuana where 4 people are in a car and all 4 people need it. In my opinion, because of the significant number of cases with at least 2 co-defendants, my recommendation would be for the commissioner of the city to consider doing a secondary contract. So basically, you have your primary contract right now, which I believe is $60,000, but basically the city go out for bid for a secondary contract for this conflict thing, which I think you could potentially, basically that person would be capped, so they're the first person on that appointed list when it goes through. Right now we have 2 primary conflict attorneys that we kind of bounce between on those, and they bill the city $250 a case. That's the rate that they bill the city. Now, if somebody's found not guilty, obviously that money's paid for by the city and not reimbursed to the city. If the court only orders attorneys fees in 1 out of the 2 cases, if somebody's found guilty, then we only collect $250 out of the $500 we paid out. If you went to a secondary contract, that would potentially cap a second attorney. Is it going to solve all your problems? No. But it would cap a second attorney at saying, okay, your allotment for this year is going to be $12,000. And so they're going to take as many appointed cases as the court deems necessary in those situations, and then that person is capped at that amount. You're still going to have the special exceptions where you may have 3rd or 4th attorneys that may need to be appointed, and we can still keep that at the $250 rate. Obviously, I would not suggest going past. I would suggest still keeping your flat fee. Other courts will use the standard state fees, which they'll bill out. I'm going to say it's up to $55 or $60 an hour for that, for their cost and their time. I'd still recommend to the city that you guys keep it at a flat fee due to some of the nature of some of the cases that go through court there. But my recommendation would be that you guys consider doing a second contract, or basically a conflicts attorney contract, to maybe curb some of that expense that might be associated with the conflicts attorney.
You'll see that 2013, it went up to 31,000 because we were having so many of them. And we take into consideration what she's suggesting. I've written it back down to what 20,000, what we had budgeted previously, 17,250. Put it, yes, there you go. Reduced it, well, it was at 14, 15, and we had it at 10, 15, put it at 18, but what she's suggesting would be a good idea to try to keep it held at 15 to 18. Because I still think as she said, we're seeing more and more of that, where they get some multiple cases. And we could try to reduce it by that, but there's no guarantee that would reduce it, but we could try. You can see how it's grown.
And you have to understand, too, conflicts don't always come from just something in the same case. So if a public defender previously represented a person in one case, and then the person they represent becomes the victim subsequently 6 months later in another case, that creates a conflict. So they don't have that ability to take that new case, even though they may have had their previous client resolved. There's some conflict issues that come up that way, too. So it's not always a multi-defendant situation, as well as just the progressive nature of coming along.
The other item that we face is a volatile line item, and he'll discuss that in a minute, is the medical expenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year we have budgeted $4,000 for that in the past, and that's what we're recommending again. This year we already have $1,500 expended from that line item approximately, and it's kind of, we put that amount of money in there, but with medical bills it could be, if you're unlucky, you could have something much more than that.
One bill could be $4,000. So far, it doesn't happen in every case, but so far the Gary County Hospital has been honoring the contract that they have with the Sheriff's Department for our medical expenses as well. However, there are some doctors that don't go through the Gary County Hospital billing evidently, and that's one case we had this year that we had a large bill because it wasn't recognized through the Gary County Hospital. It was a direct bill from a doctor that,
Billed out of Las Vegas instead
yeah.
of...
So we ended up having to eat that. That was the larger bill.
So is that the 535
Las
line?
Vegas.
Yeah, Smoky something, I'll show
You
it to
pull
you.
the bill.
It's their billing companies.
But medical is a volatile number year to year. We don't know if we're going to get a case that we have a client that you can no longer release a prisoner just because they're sick.
And are we talking about line 731 there, prisoner expenses?
Yes,
Yes.
that's all medical usually. This year, we've already have ours already expended $1,500 in that line item.
So if they get sick or get hurt while in custody, it's
Yes.
our responsibility
Our
to take care of this?
responsibility.
They have dental issues.
Historically, that jails had, people were jailed historically could be released. If you could get the judge to agree.
No, then it's never been that way. It occurs. But
It
it's not
occurred.
supposed to.
Historically, it had occurred. That's a better word. What had occurred is that if you could get the judge to agree, you would release the prisoner, and then you take him up to the hospital. And that's through litigations and pushbacks that you can't
Understand
do
why
that.
that expense isn't on the prisoner? I mean, it's
Statute, sir.
It's
Yep.
state statute.
State
Statute.
State statute.
Wow.
There's nothing we can do about it. And so through the recent years, too many cities have gotten in trouble doing that. And so now it's just not accepted, and the judges are not now willing to get caught up in that, and so they won't. That game it's not allowed so much anymore.
Yeah, you also have to cover dental, mental,
Yes,
any
all
other
of
kind of
that.
issues that occur when they're in custody.
When they're incarcerated.
If they're injured prior to custody, they're taken up, there's obviously the authority to dispute those. If it's, say they were in a bar brawl and they were injured during that
Right.
brawl.
Yeah,
and
that's
they taken into custody subsequently,
that's
but they need
different.
medical treatment, those we
Dispute.
review and dispute and pass along
Okay.
that way. So it's more, once we place them into custody, some illness occurs.
Right.
Then that's the liability.
They all of a sudden got a toothache. Then we got to take them to the dentist, and that's going to be on us. They suddenly got a pneumonia, even and we need to rush them to the hospital, or they pass out while they're in jail or something like that. They got to go to the emergency room. That's on us.
Issues with the pregnancy.
Issues with her pregnancy was one. Yeah. She was an individual. She was arrested, and all of a sudden it's going to deliver. It's like, oh my God. So, yeah.
You have to get a second attorney for the kid, or?
I know. Good
Depends on when the
question.
birth occurs.
But those are the kinds of things you deal with,
Just asking.
and historically. But from year to year, you just never know. But on that one, we're already half spent on it, halfway through the year. So.
Is there enough funds for capital improvements on your building? Because I really don't see anything in here.
Well, this building is, she's in PD.
Police department.
She works out of the police department. So all the costs
I never see
associated
it.
with, some of the costs associated with her operations is on PD.
Okay. So the municipal court then?
Municipal court, it's going to be a brand-new building. It better not need any,
Yeah.
any new anything once we're done.
So if a window breaks or
No.
anything,
There is a building maintenance and repair in that line. It's budgeted $1,500.
yeah, that didn't look like much, but okay. I'm good.
That one is $715.
Yeah, 1,500?
Yeah, 1,500.
Okay. Well, we've been talking about leaky roofs and water.
Well, this should be a new building. I mean, virtually redone, and the roof's going to be redone on this building.
Chuck, our building maintenance person, said the building has best roof in the city, so.
Yeah,
Well, it's a relative
It's not
term.
that old of a building. That was why we recommended renovation of it, is because it really isn't that old of a building.
This
I'm good.
part-time clerical person will that generate more revenue or make sure we're getting paid for things we should be getting paid for? I'm not quite clear on that.
It should, because you should be processing and following
Faster.
up on those,
And we're
and
not,
therefore.
we're currently not doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's at a
In
delayed
theory.
pace. I mean, we work as
It
efficiently
happens,
as we
but-
can with the time in the day. but-
Understood.
Right, but, I mean, it would speed up that process, allow more monitoring, plus, it would also give us the ability to implement more programs that would, so the community service, okay, hey, that's gonna, if this person, could cover, say they get, hypothetical, say they work 3 8-hour days, 24 hours, that'd be part-time still, right, under 30. So say they work 3 days a week, with that, and they can, 2 of those days they can handle with diversions, we find out, hey, 2 8-hour days, they can do that, then that third day, then hey, let's get this community service program implemented, or let's start transitioning into looking to other supervision in areas that we can. Because also, my secretary is also in charge of filing motions to revoke probation, even though it's not supervised, if they still don't follow the terms, we also have to file motions to revoke and go through cases. So basically, I see this position as helping us be more accountable as far as tracking who is and isn't paying in court, and being able to monitor those and get those people on a shorter leash, if you will.
Pay faster.
To either pay faster or face the alternatives of their sentencing.
Okay.
Sounds like,
A couple of years ago, my goal has been really to hold people more accountable through municipal court, and this just gives me a tool, and I think that tool is also going to generate, basically, they see the importance. This isn't just going to be something you can walk through anymore, and, well, now I've got cases from 2006 and 2007 that still owe us hundreds of dollars that we've just prolonged through the years. My goal is to cut that. Nip that, hey, no, we're 2 years. 2 years is the maximum you can extend probation based on our jurisdiction here. It's going to be, we're going to have to either pay or we're going to have to find some other alternative.
Okay, I think that needs to be in there.
accountability is important.
Well, yeah, the lack of respect for the law
Exactly.
is you learn and observe
Self-responsibility.
is that is key to holding down all of your costs and
Enforcement reduces too.
Okay. Well, temporarily, I would look to add this back in,
Okay.
and then if numbers don't work, it's, again, a number that we can revisit and go back to.
And I'd like to see it in there if we can.
Okay.
I concur.
Well, like I said, if we have numbers, additional revenues that we look at here at the end, that would justify for us to be putting some of this back.
Nothing needed for telephones.
The phones are paid in prosecution per PD, and the phones in the municipal court itself are up above, line item 735.
I think there may be some additional charges there for when you're moving around phone lines and things like that through the system.
Yes.
Okay.
So we accounted for that.
Did you bring your list of the things we were going to pay out of for capital?
No, for the capital fund.
Yeah, we can talk about it under capital
yeah.
improvement fund when I go to
could-
capital. The additional money for setting up the court once it's built, we had, Tyler and I had talked about $75,000, and I'll give you the breakdown of that when we get to the capital improvement fund. Furnishings mostly.
Mm-hmm. Let's not throw good stuff away.
No, we won't be throwing anything away.
Chairs and metal beds.
Additional funds or questions
Any
for Tyler
questions, Mark?
and Krista?
Covered.
Law enforcement. Law enforcement and dispatch center, special law enforcement, and drug and alcohol. Chief Brown likes to give you lots of statistics, and but it's a very important department. So in your book, starting on page 34,
there's quite a bit of statistics in there, but I think the most noted thing to note is how he has successfully, with limited staff, to attribute to, I think, his leadership, kept the crime rate in check and actually decreased it. So kudos for that. That is a difficult task to do.
Thank you, Cheryl. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to come before you tonight. I'd like to turn your attention, first of all, to the Police Department's, first page of the Police Department's presentation in the budget book, and just go over stuff that's just briefly go through there. Obviously, the mission statement, the goals of the Police Department, my bio, responsibilities and programs that are covered by the Police Department, many of which you're familiar. Many of these items that I'm going to discuss with you have been in the presentation that I think that almost all of you have attended at one time or another that I give over at the Police Department or in some civic group around the city. The staffing summary, obviously, that's an important one. The Junction City Police Department currently has an authorized tank to 47 officers, and we currently have 47 officers on staff. That's made up of 30 police officers, 8 sergeants, 6 lieutenants, 2 captains, and 1 chief of police. It should be noted that this is down from 2009. In 2009, 7 police officers were cut from the budget in hopes of helping it through the financial crisis, and so we have remained at that 47 level since 2009. The Junction City Police Department currently has 23 full-time civilian employees, to include 1 director of communications. I should note that job was consolidated, so we did eliminate another position January 1st when we consolidated the records supervisor position and the communication supervisor's position. Those were consolidated. You'll see a savings on the budget when we come down there, and so thus that was a good thing. I think it really kind of made it more efficient, and but it was a reduction of one position over there.
Links it back and forth.
We have 12 dispatchers on staff. Unfortunately, right now we're 3 down. We have 4 full-time records clerks. We are 1 down, and both those, the dispatcher and the records clerk positions, are currently in the testing process, and we should be close to hopefully hiring those. We just had 2 new dispatchers start on Monday, and we're still 3 down. So we were 5 down at one time. We're critical on dispatchers.
That takes 3 or 4 months to get one down.
It's 4 or 5 months closer, Commissioner, very honest, with the CAD, with everything. Keep in mind, they dispatch for all emergency services in the Gary County, so they must know the different parts of that. Because
Radio.
Sheriff, the fire department does plain talk. The police department does 10 code. The sheriff does, so on and so forth. So they just have to know everything. And it's if you've ever been on a dispatch center, you know what I'm talking about. Other than that, we're at full strength, and that's somewhere in the area of we have authorized strength of 71 employees at the police department, and right now we have 67 on staff. Facilities, obviously we have the police department building, the warehouse down there. We did request a roof be put on the warehouse because that building was very, very old. It was an old liquor store, retailing warehouse or something back in the 70s, and it hasn't had much work done to it since the city acquired it back then, and we are asking for a roof this year, but Cheryl has moved that into capital, so that is not in my budget, if that's approved. The pressing issues, obviously, I want to just speak a little bit about crime, because I am proud of what happened last year. Last year, and if you look at your first graph there, you'll see the Part 1 crime. That if you go back there, you'll see that Junction City had 915 Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes are homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, and auto theft. 915. On the very next page, you will see a breakdown going back to 1989, what exactly that means. In 1989, Junction City experienced 3,202 Part 1 crimes. In 2013, we experienced 915. That's almost a cut of 2/3, which basically it's a quality of life issue. Our city is much safer than it ever was back in 1989. And so I think that's something for all of us to be proud of, because it wasn't just the police department that did this. It was the citizens, the commission, everybody had a part of this, not just us. And so I'm very proud. We mounted that major operation last May. I think that had a significant impact on criminal activity in our city, and I think it continues into 2014, because so far this year, between, and I only have the figures right till May 1st, but we are down 29% for 2014. We're down 81 part-run crimes. Now, with that said, if you've been reading the paper, we've got a bunch of vehicle burglars running around here in Junction City the last week who have themselves committed probably 30 or so Part 1 crimes. So the month of June is going to be very poor on my Part 1 crime thing. But that's just something to be proud of. And having it down another 29% for the first 4 months of the year, that's fantastic. You know, I hope that we can continue on this trend. I can't guarantee it. I can't explain it. I truly can't. One of the other graphs that's on there, if you look, is the total calls for service. And that's the next one after that. If you look, we peaked in 2007, I think, 2007, with approximately 39,000 calls. Last year, we were in the 23,000 range. And they've continued to decline since 2007. You know, I could attribute some of that, I would suppose, to the lack of the 7 officers that we lost in 2009. You know, if you lose 7 officers, to put that into context, folks, that's one whole shift. Yeah. A patrol shift is made up of 7 officers. We lost an entire patrol shift in 2009 and have not got it back. And right now, we've got 47 officers. But out of those 47, I have 5 that are in training right now. 3 in the academy and 2 who just started that are going through the office phase, the ride-along phase, learning departmental general orders, and just learning the department. The other 2 officers, one of them, Jeremiah Ruffin, has been in dispatch since last year because we are so critically short in dispatch, and the other one is Officer Mary Ewens, who has been in dispatch on a light duty status for the last couple of months because of a shoulder injury. So we have 7 guys off the road, or 7 guys or gals off the road right now that are either in training or assigned to dispatch because of various reasons. So we're working the street right now with 40 officers. We've had to, here recently, we've had to pull detectives from the drug task force to work patrol. We've had to have our K-9 unit work patrol. We have right now, what's good about the summertime is we can use our SROs, school resource officers, our DARE officers, to augment the patrol shift. So that's how we're filling in this summer to get by. So we have at least a minimum, we need a minimum, we believe, for safety purposes of 5 officers out on a shift a night. Even though we'd love to have 7, we want to try to at least have 5, usually lieutenant and 4 others. So that's just kind of the staffing in a quick look there. So I think most of the rest of the graphs in there are just kind of something you for review. Drug operation group investigations, arrests are steady right now in the 1,700 a year range. The graph on experience sworn officers is a good news. 0 to 5 years, we have 18 right now at 39%. I can tell you at one time that was up to 56% between 0 and 5 years. So we are getting a little bit more seasoned officers, and so that's good news. Dispatch, as you can see on that next graph, that's critical. 0 to 3 years. Out of 12 dispatchers, we've got 9 of them that are that way.
Why is that?
Well,
You're getting so
I
much
think
turnover.
Tough job.
it's a tough job. I think number one.
Okay.
Number one, on a number of occasions, we've hired, and nothing against that, but we hire military spouses. And many times they, you know, when we hire them, they're in a good status to not be transferred to do anything, and then the next thing you know, they get some kind of the husband gets ETS, PCS, or special duty that he's going to, recruiting duty or something like that, and we lose him. The others, it's a tough job. We've lost 3 out of the last 5 just going through the training. Training is tough. It is tough. You have to, you know, as much up to be possibly 6 months in dispatch, and there's nothing I can make it any better. You're in there essentially taking life and death calls. Our CAD is very difficult, is very,
one step, and we're getting new software.
right, and we're looking at, and that's one thing we're anticipating using some of our drug money for, is to buy new software for the police department, for the dispatch center, for court,
and get tickets also is what that's the other thing. We're trying to put that together right now. We're in the process of signing a contract with a consultant to assist us in finding something to replace our system to make it so we are more efficient.
If you ever go and you should go and observe them for 15, 20 minutes increment. The software they have doesn't talk well with the records stuff. And for them to get things and pull them up quickly and to view things and to coordinate it with all the rest of the state software and everything, nothing seems to talk well to each other. And you have to remember that these are girls who are sitting there listening to 4 different radio systems.
There's
Four
there's
different
more than that. There's probably 8
At least
different
four,
entities.
four very
within it,
active,
yes.
4 very active radio systems, because they also listen to the Corps of Engineers and everybody
Parks
else.
and Wildlife and Parks.
Wildlife and Parks, but 4 very active radio systems running. They have to listen to all that, and then they have software that doesn't work well, and they have to know all these different softwares. And the goal that we've been talking about, and now that we have a large amount, a sum of money with the Drug Task Force money, they're looking into purchasing new software that coordinates all that, and it'll be much simpler to
And
run.
paying for the entire system, which could be up to as much as $1 million with drug money and stuff. So to make it, and including the municipal court package.
The software system
So
they have is really bad.
That's kind of our plan. And so, like I said, we're working with a consultant now to get started on that process. It's something the Sheriff's Office wants, something Grandview Plaza wants, and it'll be shared by all 3 entities.
They all recognize that it is so poor, the software is so poor that it's not usable for by the dispatch center, so that they're all willing to help pay for new software.
And it will be us and the Sheriff's Office splitting the cost for that software, by the way. So I would want the commission to know that as far as equipment purchases in the last year or so, we did go ahead and we did acquire the mobile operations unit that I had asked, came before you about, and that is currently being in the process of being outfitted with the necessary equipment to make it fully operational. And we're acquiring some grant money for that also to assist with that endeavor. So we're very excited about it. It's been has the decals on it now, but I don't want to debut it yet until we get it done. And then it's going to be out here in front of the building one night when you guys come in, and I'll want every one of you to come in and have a little tour of it. And that will give the citizens a chance to look at it too.
Great.
But it's very impressive, and I think when we get it all done, it's going to work well for all emergency services in
Huge
Gary
asset.
County. A huge asset for us. In the last year, we've purchased a number of items, mostly with drug money and/or grant money. We've bought new handguns for all the officers on the department. We've replaced 2006 Glocks that we had purchased. We bought 55 new Glocks. They have been delivered, and we're in the process of issuing those out. We bought new patrol rifles, new tasers, officer-worn body cameras. We just ordered 30 of those, paid for with drug money. Those officer-worn body cameras, in addition to the cameras in the cars, those will be, you've probably seen them on Captain Breesy, he has it right here. They're Taser Axion personal cameras that all patrol officers will be issued. And so one more thing to assist us in protecting us from civil liability in some cases of allegations of wrongdoing or whatever, and that works both ways. So we're looking forward to get those. We've acquired a SWAT robot with grant money from Homeland Security, a SWAT explosive entry device called a wall banger, numerous forensic applications, and by that I mean we spent $5,000 to send one of our detectives to Orlando, Florida, to learn to become a forensic expert in computer analysis. Currently, we have to send our computers up to what's called Hartsville, which is an FBI forensic center up in Kansas City. But if you are not a contributor, and by contributor I mean you do not give manpower to go to that thing, you can only submit 20 computers a year, unless you get some kind of a special exemption. We routinely go over that, particularly because I have 2 detectives that work ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. And we have software that goes out there and grabs IP addresses from people who are downloading child porn. And then we generate cases on that. And when we do that, routinely when we do a raid on those, we'll grab 3 or 4 computers. laptops, whatever the case may be, and those all have to be examined. Not to mention, when we do these seizures off the interstate, many of the times, these folks will have computers in their cars. Not to mention, when we have all kinds of identity theft, we seize computers. 20 a year is not, so I spent $5,000 out of drug money to send Officer or Detective Arnold to Orlando, Florida to learn how to. And by the end of the year, he's going through a mentoring phase right now. By October, he should be fully certified to testify as an expert on computer analysis in the Geary County District Court. So that will be a big thing, having him right on board, because sometimes we have to wait months to get that information back, and I don't have to tell you how important computer information is. He is also our data retrieval guy, forensic guy for cell phones. The county, as many of you might know, assisted us in purchasing through their special law enforcement fund that they have over there, $10,000 equipment called Celebrite, which is the newest state-of-the-art forensic download system for cell phones. Those cell phones downloads have been instrumental in breaking a bunch of cases where we were able to go in and get even deleted data off cell phones. All the photographs, all the text messages, everything off cell phones, and we all know what's on those anymore. You can't be a good investigator and not use that data off those cell phones. It's instrumental in getting convictions. So we spent a lot of money on training him, and we're continuing to do that. And we're using those drug assets, that's not using taxpayer money, we're using that, or the money that we have allocated from the municipal court on $5 a case that goes into what was called our training fund. Because we are the only entity within the city that is required by statute to do 40 hours of training a year. Every officer has to do 40 hours of training, mandatory, to keep your certification. You don't get your 40 hours, you lose your certification. And we have to do that. And we've completed that for this year. Many of the officers have been able to go out of town and do that because we have these funds available through drug money and through this training fund to do that. So that's very good. We've replaced so far this year 6 vehicles. We have approximately 12 of these vehicles of the police department that have been purchased through the normal budgeting process. Our patrol vehicles, our 8 black and whites, our 3 staff cars, and 1 animal control van have all been purchased in the past through the normal budgeting cycle. We have on the police department 40 vehicles, but only 12 of those have ever came out of the budget. The rest of them have either been paid for with drug money or have been drug-seized vehicles that are then converted into detectives' vehicles or animal control vehicles, or not animal control, or CIU vehicles or whatever the case may be. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an outlook at that. So we are currently right now about to get delivered 11 mobile data terminals for in-car camera systems. We'll have brand new cameras and mobile data systems, which were 5 years old from the systems we have now. And we're using drug money in connection with some budgeted monies to complete that $120,000 project. And that should be completed hopefully by the end of July. I would want to remind the Commission that this year, as of January, the blight came out from under the police department. The one officer that we had doing that has now been converted kind of into a one-man traffic unit, along with augmenting the shortage of manpower on the shifts. So the first few months he was able to get out and do that quite a bit. We did see an increase in our court revenue, so we were real happy with that. Right now he's kind of been tasked. Right now he's working midnights because of our shortage on shifts. We've got another lieutenant that's got a bad back, and so it's always about staffing issues. So we're always going to make sure we have at least 5 out there. With your permission, I'd like to go ahead, unless you have any questions about any of the graphs or my bio there, I would want to move on into the line items if that's okay. Commissioners, what I will do is I've got approximately 25 numbered items that I'll discuss with you, which are increases over last year. I will tell you from the beginning, though, that overall our budget has been reduced with manager's recommendations by $4,043 over last year. So there will be a reduction. You will see that, but I want to come right up front and say that. Our budget will be reduced by $4,000 over last year. So that is good news.
From these numbers here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And First thing I want to discuss on item 1 would be the manpower shortage. And we have raised our overtime up to $35,000 this year. Last year, we paid $28,885 in overtime. I will tell you that the major overtime contributor is Sundown Salute. There's no doubt about that. Our support of Sundown Salute is all hands on deck. No vacations are approved, nothing. No one is allowed to take any time off from basically July 1st until July 5th. And it's all hands on deck. Everybody works. And that's why we see our overtime budget getting bigger. And, I think $35,000 for a department our size is probably, ridiculous anyway. It's hard to believe that we were able to keep it that down, to like last year, $28,000. But our officers do take comp time. They do like to take their comp time, and so that does save us some money. Even though we are still indebted for that, they do like to take their comp time. So that is why we have asked for that. Plus, we continue to have to staff officers come in and pay them overtime to make up the shift differentials to get the people that we need out there. And so that's why the increase over last year of $10,000. Item 2, salaries and wages. That shows a 2% COLA increase, a 25% market increase for several employees, and then the 2015 JCPOA contract, which was previously approved by the Commission. And what that did basically was make our union whole for the time and benefits or salary that they lost back in 2010, 2011. And it was a good faith gesture on the part of the Commission to grant that to them. I thought that was, I think morale was definitely an issue, and I think that the Commission's faith in our officers has really been able to turn that around. And I don't need to tell you, gentlemen, you see it every night in the newspaper, the success that we have. Our departments this year was the recipients of bronze awards at the Chiefs of Police Conference. We have officers getting awards for catching bad guys out on the interstate that just shot a guy in Grandview Plaza. There's always something. Good news is always in the paper, even though unfortunately, in some cases, it's tied to bad life or death situations. So I'm proud of what our men and women do, and I think that what the JCPOA content that was approved by the Commission was warranted. So I'm very happy about that. Move down to item 3. That was a reduction in $10,000. We bought a new K-9 last year, so that was taken out of the line on budget. Item 4, which is computer hardware, there was we only had $1,200 in that this year. Jim's got a schedule for only one computer in the whole department to replace next year. Item 5 is based on, which is our fuel, about a $2,800 increase on that. We based that on a 2013 usage, 650 gallons per increase at $4.25 a gallon. That accounts for that. And that was diesel, I believe. On item 6, we budgeted 35,000 gallons at $4 a gallon. That's based on a 4-year average. Item 7, we did add some money to our parts and vehicle equipment. The vehicles last year were brand new, so they're 1 year, and they usually put anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 a year probably on those vehicles or more. And so we'll start seeing them start to show some wear. Most of them are off warranty now, so we'll start showing a wear. So we did increase our vehicle parts and vehicle equipment by $5,000. Item 8, added line of duty training, which is a subscription to an online training videos where the officers can actually complete training in our sit in our training room, watch the videos. Then they have tests and what do you call those?
Certifications.
Certifications that they get. So that's something they do both in briefing, and then they can also do that. And it has this online duty training. That's like I said, it's computer based, so it has a lot of up to date and newest videos.
It reduces his travel time.
Correct. 9, we did budget $500 more for coffee prices, and I know Mick has mentioned something about that. I don't know if, I know Pat, you and Cecil and Jim will probably remember that issue came up in 2011, and it was brought before the commission at that time as to why the police department does pay for coffee. First, I'd want to say that the police department generates, last year generated $1,632 in revenue from our snack machines in the police department. We budgeted $2,500 a year, so as that, it's about a $900 cost to the citizens. We are a 24-hour-a-day operation, a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation, and you wouldn't be surprised sometimes just how a cup of coffee will help a rape victim or a robbery victim or a witness in a homicide case, or even police officers have been out in the cold all night, and just that one cup of free coffee is all it is we're talking about, and that's the only thing they get free is the coffee. That it's been something that's been institutional to the police department since I've been here. Not to say just because it's continued to happen that makes it right in hard times, but I want you to understand that it, you know, we do have that revenue from the machines in our building, and that for another $900 we'll just give this one added benefit to our employees and to our citizens who do engage in drinking our coffee. And so I know, Mick, that had been a concern of yours, and I just want to make sure I tried to clarify that to you.
Just a question.
Okay. Item 10, that's our towing fees. That's for when our vehicles break down or whatever, and obviously, hopefully, we did increase that just a little bit. I think from 2014, we increased that to 2. Okay, what
Your
are we
history
doing?
was that in 16,
Right.
you had
$1,625 for the tows. So we also, that also, and every once in a while, most of the time, we have the individuals who, if their car's been involved in a crime or something, they have to pay the tow bill. But every once in a while, we have to take one because of, for whatever reason, and then we pay that tow bill with that, out of that line item also. We increased that. Item 11, we added 2 GPS to 2 vehicles. Vehicle 218 in the court unit, which are commonly used for patrol purposes, we added GPS to that. All of our vehicles in our fleet have all the black and whites, the K9 vehicle, and now our court car also has GPS. I have a 42-inch screen in my office, and I can look right up and tell where every car is in Junction City. And that's not to necessarily monitor them, but it is, if we call on the radio and we can't get a hold of that officer, we know where they are right away. It updates every minute. And it also, recently we had a complaint by a citizen about an officer going through a school zone at 32 miles an hour during the school zone. So we went right to the InTouch computer-based GPS system, and it told us at that time that officer was going through 32 miles an hour in the school zone. He was doing it. He was en route to a domestic violence call, but he was going through the school zone at 32 miles an hour in a 20. And so, that's just one of the examples of how this system works. So the cost for it is fairly minor, and I've actually, even Cheryl is talking about putting it on their trash trucks. So.
Yes.
Let's see. Item 12 is our intent. If you've seen our warehouse there at 9th and Franklin, I'm sorry, 9th and Monroe, it's starting to peel very badly, particularly on the west side. And we got an estimate of $14,280 to get that painted, hopefully next year, and then the parking lot resurfaced for $9,000. We also included a 5% increase. I think Lori was Service Master. Am I correct? They clean our building. Was it 5%?
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And then landscape maintenance, we increased that, I think, 5% also for our building. Item 13, there was an increase there, a slight increase of, I think, $500. That's what we use for movie in the park licensing. Years past, we were under the impression that we could use our relationship with the school district for copyright purposes for showing those movies in the park. Well, we found out that was incorrect. And so we therefore had to start purchasing the copyright to those movies so we could have our monthly movie over there. And so that took all of our $1,500 that we had budgeted. So Captain Lightoff didn't have any money for crime prevention material or incentives, block party, so we added an extra $500 to that. Item 14 was electric utilities. There's a 5% increase. Item 15, gas utilities, 5% increase. Item 16, 2% increase for insurance and bonds, which is virtually out of our hands. Item 17, there was a correction that had to be made in the cost of $200 for a corrected copier lease, and as to the maintenance to the actual corrector lease and maintenance to the actual cost. So that was corrected in this budget. Item 18, dues to the Kansas Peace Officers Association were increased, and so there was a $200 increase in that also. Item 19, manager's recommendations are $25,000. That would allow us to purchase a new ACO van, which has normally been done through the budgetary process. We currently are driving a 1997, Lori, 1997 recreational van that we got from the Parks and Recs Department back in 2009 when our 1996 got shot. In 2009, anything that we could do to save some money, we did that, and so we made this 1997 van into our new ACO van, and so it's getting on its last leg, so that's why we're trying to replace that in 2015. Item 20, we still pay, there was a $234 increase there. That's purely on that $234 lease increase on our command vehicle, which the lease payment on that should come up in February 2017. Now, that's the police budget. Money-wise, the police budget is $39,042 over last year. But, again, remember, after we get through the dispatch budget was decreased by about $48,000, so we're going to be $4,000 to the good on the entire police budget. There's not much in the dispatch budget that I need to discuss. Item number 21, we have gone to a different test for our dispatchers, and so the costs associated with that have increased, so we got $500. Not to mention, we've been doing a lot of testing. I hate to say that, but, when it was a dispatcher, was a records clerk, we had 233 applicants. Records clerk. This last dispatch batch was 73 applicants, and I think 26 showed up for the test.
Wow.
And so each one of those has to take a written test. Those tests cost $15, $20 a piece, if I recall, right, Lori? 12 to 15, something like that. I don't know that. So we increased the cost of that by $500. Item 22, which was insurance and bonds, that's a 2% increase. Once again, item 23, there was some increased copier lease and maintenance on actual cost that we had not got correct last year. Item 24, I concluded this year that I wanted all of our dispatchers to be members of APCO, which is basically the association that governs dispatchers. We had dropped that many years ago when times were tough, and I want to get those back in. There's a lot of good training and stuff that we can participate in with APCO that would open up different doors to our dispatchers. Last, item 25, which is we did in our overall, we had CAPER's rate increase this year, so there was a increase on that, was increased from 9.69 to 10.33%. So there was an increase in CAPER's payments already this year also. Once again, just in summation, overall, our budget's been reduced by $4,043 over last year, and I would be glad to try to field any questions that any of you may have.
Chief, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully I'm not stepping on your toes. A lot of the dispatchers, when I was a dispatcher, we had the option to be a cadet, and we could work through. I didn't want to be a cadet, so I was going to be a police officer. The cadets were guys that We could take larceny, minor larcenies, we worked the parks type stuff, worked traffic, and then as they got of age, they became police officers. And what you're saying now, like for instance, Officer Ruffin, he's working with the dispatch. These guys also could work in with dispatch, you know, so if there wasn't a task, they worked with patrol, they helped, you know, when we were
You're
doing...
talking about a reserve program, Jim? Something like that? We had a reserve program, and I must be honest with you, in this day and age, the civil liability is so great when you have untrained individuals out there. Remember, we go to these officers to learn what their job they do.
Correct.
They go through 34 weeks of training, 15 weeks in the academy, and another 14 weeks roughly in in-house training with a field training officer, and probably another 5 to 6 weeks, Captain Breesy running them through the ringer over policies, procedures, and all that stuff. We don't have, these part-time guys, we don't have the time to do that. We had a reserve program, and unfortunately, after we ended up arresting one of them and other issues with another one, we dissolved that program. We just felt that this particular time it was too exposed us too much to civil liability because these folks, we just can't give them the training that they need out there anymore. And all you got to do is pick up the paper and you see what I'm talking about.
But I think the cadet program is actually different than the reserve officer. They're full-time, they get the same pay as a dispatcher, they actually work as a dispatcher, they also work with minor cases, but we got paid the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they became of age, they were familiar with police operations, they'd already worked the dispatch part, and they just went right to the academy. So that part where you're saying they need to learn the police operations, they did that for the 3 years. Like, I got out of high school at 18, so until I was 21, I couldn't go to the academy. So I'm working for the police, but I'm also learning the police operations for 3 years. Then those guys that went to the academy, they were so much further ahead than the folks that walked in off the street. It was a great addition to the police force.
Well, I think that what you said there, Jim, you said they got to be paid.
Yeah.
The money's not there to pay them.
You know,
You know, we've got our 47 and our civilians. I just don't think that the money's there
Okay.
to pay them, to be very honest with you.
Okay.
If I've got money to do it, I'm going to hire more dispatchers or more police officers, what I'd really
Or
like to do.
increase the pay on the dispatch.
You know.
Because part of our problem in dispatch, too, is we compete with Manhattan. And,
They start,
pay-
Manhattan starts at 15, we start at 14.
yeah, they pay $1 an hour higher than we do.
And they're 12
So-
hours too, right?
And
Yeah,
that's
12-hour
after,
shifts.
and that's after we increased them last year from 13 to 14.
That's correct.
So we already bumped up $1 an hour. But now, and as soon as we bumped up an hour, then Manhattan bumped theirs again. So now we're still $1 behind.
But Manhattan suffers with the same thing. Even though they're paying 15 an hour, they're still suffering over there.
So is Topeka.
Just recently, Topeka, who has 43 dispatchers, and they only had 28 on staff down there. So this is not an anomaly in Junction City.
Yeah.
This is quite common.
It's a tough
I don't
job.
I don't know really all the different reasons. I know the military was one. I know the difficulty of our CAD is another. But this has been like this as long as I can remember. And we're doing everything we can to try to figure it out. We're putting them through more rigorous tests. We didn't used to do lie detectors on them. We're doing lie detectors on them now. We didn't used to do we're doing drug testing on them now. We didn't used to do drug testing. We're doing that on them now. Everything we can to make sure that we're getting the best applicants. We're still getting in, and Cheryl knows when I bring a packet over here on a new employee, those packets are like that because we do thorough background checks, we do pre-boards, we do oral boards, we do lie detector, and that's every employee. And we still just, it's still a crap game as to who we get, and unfortunately that's too bad. But we try the best we can, and I just don't know what else I can do to try to keep that. One thing I'm trying to do, and Cheryl's already discussed that, is try to buy new software to get up there in dispatch, to make it easier. Hopefully, I've seen what one application is called New World. What's up in Salina? It's very, very efficient. The dispatchers up there love it. Our dispatchers complain about ours all the time. I think there wasn't a lot of thought put in the software that we have back in 2008, 2007, when we were looking at that.
And they paid $550,000 for it?
I think it was, Jim, what was it, total?
550?
430, probably? And we've had maintenance agreements.
After the lease payments?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was $550.
520.
Yeah,
I was going to
something
say, it
like
was close up, it's over $500,000, I know that.
And that wasn't just, that was all of it. That was records management for the police, CAD,
doesn't work.
jail package, all of it.
So,
And it just didn't turn out to be a very good system.
but on software, you get what you pay for.
That's correct.
And if you're going to buy cheap, you're going to get cheap. And so what we're looking at is in the range of $750,000 to $1 million for software that works and
We've
that works
also got to see it
properly.
in a site that's using it, and actually not just the vendor coming out. You need to go to a place that's already using it and watch
Correct.
them use
Well, when
it.
they bought this system in 2008, they hadn't even developed a jail package yet, and we bought it without the
never
jail
buy Blue
package even
Sky.
being
No,
developed.
we're not going to buy new.
You don't have
we're
it.
not gonna
you
do
don't
that.
have it.
It's
That's
gonna
why we
be-
brought a consultant in this time, who's going to work very closely with Jim, and we're going to try to get it right this time.
We're going to buy software that we know works, and we're going to call around and check the references. Does this work? Does that work? When you
Go there and
interface.
watch them use it. Watch the
Yes.
dispatchers
Yep,
use it.
And we've already done that with Salina, but we're going to do that again. Plus, Manhattan has an application called Spillman.
Yeah.
Dickinson County has one called Interpol. So there's three. Everybody talks well about those systems, and so we're going to probably look at all three of them, because New World is pretty prevalent throughout Kansas and in the Midwest. Spillman, I know Lawrence just bought that, I think. Tyler Technology, when we bought that in '07, there wasn't anybody in Kansas. It all came out of Texas. But it was the same software that we had at City Hall. It was called their Encode system, right, Jimbo? Yep. And we believed at that particular time, and everybody believed, that it was going to work well with Encode, and it turned out it didn't. So it was a very poor choice of software for that, and we're going to try to rectify that with this drug money that we've got.
The other issue we have is tracking tickets with the municipal
correct.
court
Oh,
and the
horrible.
and the auditors.
And that's why one of the things I do want to purchase with this would be digitickets, where the officers will have a little handheld device. They can slide the driver's license through, that has that magnetic strip, write it through there. It populates all the information into the digiticket, and then that can be transmitted automatically to municipal court. Am I correct, Jim?
So then
And into the RMS?
Reduces
It'll
data entry of the tickets.
it'll eliminate the duplication of entry. That's when I was talking about efficiencies earlier. What he's talking about to make court efficient. Why we won't need an additional clerk over there is because we're going to be looking at how can we more efficiently operate that without, and the layout that we have designed in the court office itself is going to help on efficiency. Because the way it's going to be set up for the layout, the digiticket, along with new software, the efficiency should reduce their workload to the point that we won't need another clerk in there.
One thing we will take into consideration, and we laid that out to our consultant, was that whatever platform we get, whether it be New World, Spillman, Interpol, we're going to want that to work well with the business application that City Hall may want to have.
It'll
to look at
interface.
down the roads. Their software is getting old over here too, and it's not and Cheryl will be the first one to tell you that it doesn't work the way it's supposed to either. And so that's why we'll be looking at making sure that whatever we get should work well, and that was Jim and Cheryl's idea, to make sure that it works well with whatever City Hall may buy down the road.
You need
Yeah,
to run
and
those site visits too.
I will. And initially, they'll have to guarantee the interface with what we currently have. But our software here is not very well either. But so at the same time, they're looking at their software. We're going to be looking at the accounting and the payroll packages as well, just to make sure that down the road, should we want to switch to new software, not saying that we'd have to go with that system, but that would be applicable to go with that, and it's something that we're going to be okay with on the accounting side as well. Because the best alternative always is to stay with the same company, otherwise you've got this going on.
What's your
Because then they'll
timeline?
say, oh no, that's not my problem, no, it's your problem.
Well, we just were in the process. I've sent the consulting contract over. It's been approved by Cheryl and by Jim, and it's been sent over to the lady over in Abilene. And once she signs it, then we'll start the
search.
process on how to do that. Hopefully,
End of the year?
By the end of the year,
hopefully,
I think we can get it purchased before year end.
I'm hoping. Those digiticket devices are about $5,000 a piece, and we probably have to have about 8 or 9 of them. So this is all the benefit of having this drug money in there that this one-time really big seizure we had last year has helped us with. So we're really looking forward to being able to
It's going to solve a lot of problems.
solve some problems with it.
Well, we've been very happy with that you being able to supplement what we can give you to make your job and
Well,
easier safer
try
for
to,
your officers, so.
I try to keep it the way it should be. You know, the statute says, you know, special law enforcement purposes and I try, what's normally budgeted items, I try to stick to that. What's not, then I try to augment that, like guns, stuff like that. All that stuff's not normally budgeted. So that kind of stuff, you know, and there's been some things at the department that we've done. We put tile in the break room, in the locker rooms,
Building improvements,
carpet
yeah.
in the training room, bought some appliances for the training room, stuff like that, or for the break room and things like that. So that it's been allowing us to do stuff we could have never done without it. So it was a
Huge benefit.
huge benefit to us.
I think it's very commendable that this police department and the officers themselves have been able to work with us on the overtime wages. To have a department this large and less than 10% of their staff money is overtime, I mean, that is very commendable. I've always been impressed with the way he's been able to manage his staff to do that, and it shows in the numbers. So even though he's asking for more money for overtime, it's warranted, and he's still under 10%.
I'm excited that we may be even able to get all these officers out on the street here within the next 6 months.
You know,
I'm
that would
hoping.
help a lot.
I think that'll help a lot. Because I think that just having that, you know, I'm short one detective in narcotics right now. I'm short one detective in investigations. Each patrol shift is short one guy, and so you know, so like I said, we're like all hands are on deck. We're trying to cover patrol right now. So it's a never-ending situation trying to get people to work. So.
His is one of the budgets that, as we got numbers adjusted, it's clear that he spends money where it needs to be spent, and doesn't overspend if it's not necessary. His budgets, as you see, are pretty tight, and he'll come in still with 10% less, but plus or minus 10% in any budget is a good job. And he's not asking for too much, he's not spending too much. So I think you can trust his numbers are accurate.
I just had one question.
Yes, sir.
On the capital equipment, is that van able to be purchased with drug money?
I'll be very honest with you, Nick, I don't believe so. And the reason I say that, because it's always previously been purchased through as a normally budgeted item. And that's why I say we've only got 12 vehicles that I think fit that criteria. And that's the 8 black and whites, the 3 staff cars, and the animal control vehicle. That's the only ones, those 12. The other 27 approximately have all been either bought or bartered through drug seizures. And I try to, like I said, stay strictly to the statute. And I think that it says in the statute that, quote, such funds shall be expended by the agencies or departments through the normal city, county, or state appropriation system and shall be used for such special additional law enforcement purposes as the law enforcement agency head deems appropriate. Neither future forfeitures nor the proceeds from such forfeitures shall be used in planning or adopting a law enforcement agency's budget. And that's verbatim state statute. And so I have a very fine line I have to, and I believe me, I wish I could buy it, because I really don't want to wait till next year, but I just told myself, and I've discussions with Lori and my staff, that I just don't think that would be.
And I've already said to him, no
I've talked
brand
to
new,
her, Cheryl,
no
also.
brand new one. It's going to be looking for a really good used one, and they're going to convert a used one.
Okay.
I'm just tight with the money, I guess. There will be no brand new ones.
Actually, that is, I'm sorry, ma'am,
Yeah.
that is a GSA purchase.
Yes. GSA, well, is it not brand new, though?
Brand new.
It is?
GSA.
But the $5,000,
No, there was 25,000.
Yeah, but you had 22.
22,000 for the van
Oh,
and
and
3,000 for setup.
Okay, and before you asked for 5,000 set up,
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
reduced, that's how we
That's
reduced
correct.
it on that one.
And it was-
That's because this
it
is
is
a
a brand new
GSA
van directly
this
from
is the
GSA.
GSA discounted one.
And that van would normally cost you somewhere in the 30-some thousand range.
Yes.
So it's a bargain. And frankly, I came before you recently to purchase a pickup truck for one of our narcotics detectives. We were able to get it for $22,000 through GSA. And the reason we went with that was because we started looking at used state surplus vehicles.
Yeah.
And they wanted $23,000 for a 2009 Chevy Tahoe that had 69,000 miles on it. And that's just one example of
Oh.
how expensive pickup trucks and SUVs are.
The police
So-
department also gets a little bit, even further discount than even what Public Works Department. They have a special discount through GSA.
GSA. The government buys hundreds of thousands of vehicles every year, and we jump
They
on that
qualify for
contract.
purchasing through it.
It's same where the MPs get all their cars,
Yes.
and where the Army gets all their civilian-like vehicles, so.
I can't get Public
Plus
Works
you get
and
warranty,
others
too.
through it, but I
Yes.
can.
So that's a
Correct.
big thing,
Yes,
It's a regular warning, absolutely.
3 years or whatever it is.
so. Any other questions for law enforcement? Okay, special law enforcement. Okay, I want to explain this before he launches or explains anything. Under the special law enforcement and the drug and alcohol, we switch over now into what's called a revenue fund, and that means that the revenues brought in has to match the revenues to be expended. And so you might see a number here that's just a plugged-in number so that you can have budget authority to spend it and cash carry it, but it's not necessarily, and I can assure you that the chief does not spend if he doesn't need to spend. And so on the revenue, it doesn't have to match, but the revenues brought in and the ability to spend it now, and the large number we have in there to spend now is going to be to buy that software. So, go ahead.
We have just one employee that's covered by this particular fund. That's the secretary for the Drug Task Force.
That's part of our
Paid for,
wages.
and this is part of her wages. The county attorney's office and the sheriff's office picks up the other part of that. So this is her part of that wages in here. And again, that's the only real expense out of that, other than what we buy with the money out of this particular fund, which is all the stuff I've described to you tonight.
And it's year to year, roll the dice shoot on how much money he's going to bring in, so I estimate low. And if he hugely overexceeds the 300,000 I have estimated it to bring in, or if he underspends that, it's a cash in, cash out fund. So if he doesn't get 300,000 cash, he can't spend 300,000 cash. But we know we have the $1.2 million is in there for the purchase of the software and other things, other capital purchases he might be purchasing. But if the money doesn't come in, he can't spend it.
In years past, I'll tell you that the amount in that fund has usually been somewhere between probably 180 and 250,000.
Right.
No more than that.
It's a wide range.
And it was
so.
only, again, because of that case and a couple others that we've been able to have that amount.
On revenue funds, before he spends money, we look at cash. What's cash on hand before we even allow him to spend anything on a revenue fund. And this is not, as I've reminded you in the past, it's not a fund that you control. This is money in, money out.
They have money in.
It's glad to see the money in, yes. Definitely. It's been a huge benefit for our community. Drug and alcohol is a revenue fund as well. It is controlled by the City Commission. The liquor tax, and I was explaining this to a citizen right during the break, we get a lump sum money, and we're required by law to split it 3 ways. 1/3 of it must be proven that you're spending it on recreation, and that's why we put it in as a recreation revenue. 1/3 goes to the general fund for general fund support, and 1/3 goes to the drug and alcohol fund, and that's where the primary revenue that they get. And the other money they get is from the school district as reimbursement of the officer, or the DARE officer.
This one pays for the DARE officer. The school district pays for the 2 SROs that we have.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
This fund pays for our DARE officer
Yes,
year-round,
yes.
and so that's not a tax liability for the citizens.
No.
This fund pays for that.
Yes,
In addition to that, we use syntax money, what we call, for a syntax patrol, which is routinely on Friday or Saturday nights. We'll put 3 or 4 officers out from usually 11 at night till 3 in the morning with a specific goal of DUI enforcement. And so we generally, I think we spent, about $2,600 in what you would call overtime in
The additional revenue would just be
2013.
donations then? If any, okay, that's what I misunderstood you on that.
And
I
then
thought
we
it was
did, then this year too, we have, we donated $10,000, and I know many of you have seen this in the news, but we donated $10,000 to the school district out of this fund to implement a drug testing program at the high school. And if any youngster up there wants to participate in extracurricular activities, they have to participate in this program. And obviously, the school felt that they had this problem up there, and they approached me about it. I consulted with, at that time, Mr. Smith and Cheryl. We felt this was exactly on target from what the state statute described what this money can be used for, and therefore, we approved up to $10,000, if you will, $9,999, to go to the school district for the purposes of implementing their drug testing, which will start with school year 2014-2015. And I think if you've paid any attention to the school board meeting minutes and stuff, that's been discussed and approved by the school board. So we will be going forward with that beginning the new school year. And I'm very excited about that. I think that the one thing that I think a lot of people think will do will relieve peer pressure. You know, if you're playing football, you're playing and you're out with your friends and they're all, let's say, smoking a joint, and they try to pass it to you and say, I don't want to do that. I'm on football team, on the wrestling team, on the winter. It relieves that peer pressure sometimes that students are under the gun for when they're out there with their friends, and we all know what peer pressure can do. And you know, unfortunately, you just get the wrong person, and whether or not that marijuana or that cocaine or methamphetamine or that ecstasy, or what we've seen up at the school lately, something called wax, which is a highly hallucinogenic form of marijuana that's strained. Marijuana strains is almost like hash oil, but we're starting to see that a lot at the school and stuff. So I think this is a very positive thing. The school's excited about it, so am I. So I think this is a good, we routinely maintain about $120,000 in this account.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you'll notice, it shows only $77,000 revenue, but we're spending $99,000. But cash carry is about $120,000, $140,000 a year.
We get about, what, Lori?
Because he gets donations and things.
$25,000 to $30,000 every quarter.
Yeah.
I think, something like that.
So some of it cash carries from previous years.
Right.
So
it doesn't wipe the slate clean every
Yeah.
January 1st.
Yeah.
It just rolls over.
So whatever money they don't spend just rolls over.
And we do buy some DARE. We do support, I forgot to say that, but we do support Fort Riley's DARE program also, because they are USD 475. And we buy approximately $6,000 worth of T-shirts every year for DARE graduation with that, plus certificates and stuff like that we use out of the Syntax money. We used to have a major donor here in Junction City that gave us $2,500 a year, but they're no longer doing that. So the only monies we had to continue the DARE program in its truest form, like we have now, with the presentation of certificates, with the presentation of T-shirts, was to use this money. And again, I think this is right on target. We're using it for the right thing.
So the 50,000 there on the DARE,
Yeah,
that's not.
that's why I didn't add it in. I wasn't certain about it.
Okay.
And so I didn't add it in. That was there more for a reminder to me
Okay.
to finalize that with him. That's got to go to the general fund.
Yeah, because the DARE officer is paid for it.
I had failed to ask Jolene where it went, and I put it there as a reminder and then didn't add it in. But just so you know, even though it looks funny on this sheet, on this one, on the state budget forms, you see the cash carry comes, you know, in at the top line, and it carries down and over. And so that's why it works out on the state budget forms, because it's set up that way. Cash is taken into consideration on enterprise and revenue funds. Well, on all of the funds, actually, but that's true of the general fund as well, but that's why it just looks funny here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chief. Appreciate it.
Chief?
if you have any questions or concerns of what we're doing on this process and want to see something different before the next meeting, let me know. I don't have anything else further tonight. Next will be the Public Works Department
On Monday night.
on Monday night.
Cheryl, the first thing that you talked about when you passed it out, there should have been a page B and a page C, 8B and 8C.
B and C goes right in this, in these, right in behind.
I only
It looks
got
like you
C.
got a single page.
I got a single
yeah.
page.
You can have this piece.
My
Oh,
mine's-
yours not two-sided? You got a two-sided one.
Thank you.
Yep,
I'm covered.
okay. Everybody else got a two-sided?
Yep, Tyler did have one, but he didn't.
I can
Oh,
take
you
care
have
of
a
it.
single-sided
Oh, that's
one.
why. One got split. That was probably the original. That was on the same stack. Yeah, just insert that into there, so that's the breakdown per department that didn't get inserted on the forms. These forms are good for you to follow as well throughout the budget process, but they don't mean a lot until we get the cash numbers and the audited numbers. But you can, well, the reason I generate and give them to you early is so that you can see where a starting point on the mill levy is. And that's on the second page there. That's the real critical numbers for mill levy. It shows you at least that we're in the ballpark for reaching our goal.
It's not under yet.
I said in the ballpark, I didn't say that we're exact, they're dead on. It's only about a little over half a mil right now. Increase. So,
It'll be
which
easy to get
considering,
under.
when considering that we increased union contracts and we're a little bit of cost of living and I know right off the bat that we're going to have increases from electrical and gas because both are in KCC asking for increases now. 2% insurance from NPR for our for our
The property.
property and liability insurance informed us that their increase was only going to be 2%, which isn't much, but there is going to be a 2% increase on our property and liability insurance.
10% health.
We budgeted for a 10% health. I am fearful we're not going to hold at 10%. Last year was 6%, so knock on wood, we have a good week next week. Because we're going to meet with them next week. What else did we had an increase from Capers and KPNF both, again this year.
And it'll be again additionally the next year.
Yes. So when you consider all of those increases, and yet still have, right now, on those lines, only a $500,000 increase, it's pretty awesome that the department heads can hold the line like that. When, over things that they don't control at all.
Well, I won't go after the $900 worth of coffee.
Thank you, Mick.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Shall we go home?
We can go home.